Chapter 1081. Xiantian School? Hearing that name, everyone was startled. They had never heard of that name in the Jianghu continent. Could it be some ancient sect? Everyone guessed. As for Lin Xian, he frowned. His expression was gloomy. Just now, Zhao Shui's gaze had swept over him. However, there was no expression on her face. It was as if she was looking at a stranger. That shocked him. He didn't dare to believe it. It had to be known that his relationship with Zhao Shui was extremely good. There was no reason for her to not recognize him. Furthermore, that cold expression didn't seem to be an act. Damn it, did something happen to Zhao Shui? Did she lose her memory? Lin Xian guessed. He couldn't have mistaken her for someone else. Furthermore, she was also called Zhao Shui. Furthermore, he was very familiar with that eye technique. Thus, he was certain that this woman was his old friend. However, she didn't recognize him. That meant that something must have happened to her that caused her to lose her memory. No, I have to find an opportunity to ask her. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He didn't have many friends and Zhao Shui was undoubtedly one of them. He didn't rashly go up. He decided to observe for a while longer and find an opportunity to ask her. While everyone was discussing, Zhao Shui turned around and flew inside. Everyone looked at each other. Then they clenched their teeth and followed. Not long after, they were shocked. There was a palace in front of them. That palace was extremely grand, far surpassing the surrounding buildings. There were two huge black tortoise statues on both sides of the palace. They seemed real and they gave off an ancient aura. Zhao Shui stood in front of the palace. She frowned slightly and coldly said to the people behind her, "The things in this palace are mine. You can do whatever you want with the rest." Her voice was cold and even contained a trace of dominance. Everyone was silent. However, their gazes were fiery as they stared ahead. However, no one dared to go up. Elder Song and the others' gazes flickered. In the end, they clenched their teeth and didn't go up. That Xiantian Eye was too terrifying. None of them were confident that they could withstand the Void Sky Eye. Moreover, the expert of the Shen Turtle clan had been driven away by this woman, so this palace ought to belong to her. Based on the above 2 points, Elder Song and the people of Divine Bird Palace did not make a move. However, there was more than one palace here. Therefore, everyone was only envious for a moment before dispersing in all directions. Although they couldn't get the best one, they wouldn't let go of the other treasures. The Shen Turtle clan was very powerful and was very close to the Dragon Palace. There might be some treasures hidden here. Lin Xian smiled when he saw that everyone was going to search for treasures. In terms of strength, he was not the strongest here. However, in terms of control over the Shen Turtle clan, no one could compare to him. Although he was the same as the others and had never been here before, not long ago he controlled a black tortoise. Moreover, it was a leader-level black tortoise. Based on the black tortoise leader's understanding of this place, it was definitely in control. Therefore, Lin Xian was not worried about the treasure hunt at all. Secretly controlling the Thousand Beast Cauldron, Lin Xian contacted the black tortoise leader he controlled. Soon, through the black tortoise leader, he learned of a secret treasure location. With a flash, Lin Xian took the dark red dragon and the snow-white monkey and quickly flew into the distance. After passing through many pavilions and buildings, he saw the black tortoise leader he controlled. Under the guidance of the black tortoise leader, Lin Xian entered a 6-story pavilion. This pavilion was octagonal like a pagoda standing there. On the first floor there were 6 black tortoise guards. In the future, this would be an important place for the Shen Turtle clan. However, with the black tortoise leader, the 6 black tortoises were quickly sent away. Without the guards guarding the door, Lin Xian moved quickly. He turned into a sword light and instantly rushed in. There were many restrictions on the way, but there was no need for the dark red dragon to do anything. He controlled the black tortoise leader and quickly broke them all. After entering, Lin Xian's eyes lit up because he smelled an extremely rich spiritual medicine. Damn, what a rich fragrance. The dark red dragon was drooling. The snow-white monkey also cheered. Its big eyes narrowed into crescents. Its body swayed and turned into a white light, flying into the distance. Damn, leave some for me. Lin Xian did not dare to tarry when he saw the frenzied looks on the 2 of them. He quickly executed his movement skill and dashed forward. Bang! The door of a secret room was opened. This was a medicine garden. It was about 2 acres, but it was filled with all kinds of spiritual medicine. Light flowed on it, emitting an extremely rich fragrance. When Lin Xian saw it, he sucked in a breath of cold air because these were all precious spiritual medicine. They were absolutely rare and many of them were extinct in the outside world. I'm rich, I'm rich. Lin Xian cheered. As an alchemist, he was even more interested in spiritual medicine. With these top-grade spiritual medicine, he could refine all kinds of precious elixirs. What are you looking at? Hurry up and do it. The dark red dragon was crazy, drooling. On the other side, the snow-white monkey was making a few noises. Lin Xian did not dare to delay. In order to increase his speed, he even used the thunderstorm wings. Together with the illusory demonic steps, his speed reached the extreme. However, he did not collect all of them. Instead, he collected the best ones. Every time he took action, it was an extremely precious spiritual medicine. Hey, purple thunder flower, I need it. Whirlpool flower. Golden thread grass. Lin Xian was overjoyed. Most of the spiritual medicine here were what he needed. One had to know that he had countless elixir recipes, among which there was no lack of rare ancient elixir recipes. However, although he had elixir recipes, he did not have any spiritual medicine. In other words, he could only watch. However, he was no longer a child. The spiritual medicine in front of him were all top grade and could help him refine countless precious elixirs. Perhaps there were other treasures in the huge palace, but for Lin Xian this was the best. In the medicine garden, Lin Xian's body flashed quickly and collected the spiritual medicine. Because there was no restriction, the fragrance of the medicine wafted out and immediately attracted a few warriors nearby. Near the pavilion, there were a few disciples of the Divine Bird Palace. They investigated for a while but did not find anything special. Originally they wanted to leave. However, suddenly a fragrance wafted over. After smelling it, the disciples suddenly widened their eyes. It smells so good. This is a spiritual medicine. Yes, and it's not an ordinary spiritual medicine. It's definitely a top-grade spiritual medicine. The disciples looked at each other and saw the passion in each other's eyes. Let's go and have a look. Haha, we're rich this time. We must be ahead of everyone. Chapter 1082. Spiritual Medicine. This is a supreme-grade spiritual medicine. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were overjoyed when they discovered the situation. Let's move quickly, we have to occupy this place as soon as possible. We can't let others find out, especially those from the Immortal Martial Academy. The few of them were excited. They chased after the aura and flew quickly. Soon they arrived at the front of the pavilion. It's here, let's go in. The few of them did not hesitate and quickly entered the pavilion. They were very fast and soon saw the herb garden full of supreme-grade spiritual medicine. Damn, so many spiritual medicine. We're rich, we're really rich this time. These spiritual medicine could not be found in the outside world. Each of them could be sold for a sky-high price. They were extremely precious. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were very excited. Their eyes were red and they rushed forward crazily. However, before they could get close, they were blocked by a few Black Tortoise guards. Damn, there are people from the Black Tortoise clan here. After being blocked, the few of them were furious and their faces were very ugly. Because they had been unimpeded all the way, they thought that there was no one guarding this place. However, they did not expect to be blocked by a Black Tortoise just as they approached the herb garden. They couldn't accept it. How could they accept it? There are 4 of us and only 3 of them. As long as we attack with all our might, we can definitely get through. A disciple of the Divine Bird Palace said quickly. The other 3 nodded and then attacked with all their might. However, they still underestimated the Black Tortoise clan. After fighting for a while, they could not get through at all. They even wanted to use their speed advantage to leave the Black Tortoises behind, but it did not happen in the end. Because the space here was small, it was not convenient for them to use their movement techniques. Damn it, these Black Tortoises are so difficult to deal with. Damn, I'm so angry. The treasure is right in front of us but we can't get it. Who can understand this feeling? I'm going crazy. The 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were going crazy. At this moment, one of them widened his eyes and pointed in front of him in disbelief. He looked as if he had seen a ghost and his eyes almost popped out. That was because he had discovered a figure in the premium herb garden, who was rapidly harvesting spiritual herbs. Damn, look, there's someone. The disciple screamed. Someone? Stop joking, how can there be someone in there? We're so powerful and we can't get in, how can others go in? Unless it's a senior figure. Yes, but when we came here we didn't find any traces of the older generation. Are you so mad that you're hallucinating? The other 3 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace didn't believe him. However, when they turned to look inside they were all stunned. Fuck your grandpa, what's going on? Fuck, there's someone, there's really someone. Motherfucker, he's not from the older generation. Seeing this scene, the 4 disciples of Sacred Bird Palace were completely stunned. They stood there motionlessly. That was because they discovered that the figure in front of them was not someone from the older generation. However, this was not the most shocking thing. What shocked them the most was that they actually discovered something else. Fuck, what did I just see? A snake, a red snake. How did it get in? Oh, my eyes are going blind. Why is there a furry thing? Who can tell me how the three of them got in? The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were dumbfounded because they couldn't figure out how the other party got in. After all, the four of them couldn't blast away the other party's 3 black turtles even after risking their lives. At this time, inside the herb garden, the dark red dragon also turned around and looked at the 4 figures outside the door. He quickly said, "Hey, there are 4 little reptiles coming." Lin Xian didn't even turn his head. He quickly said, "Ignore them. Hurry up and pick them. We'll leave as soon as we're done." He wasn't worried at all because with the black turtles, those people couldn't enter at all. By the time those elders came in, he had already finished plucking the fruits. Therefore, Lin Xian ignored the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace outside. The dark red dragon turned around and revealed a very disdainful smile. He then extended his dragon claw and looked down on them. Seeing this, the faces of the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace outside suddenly turned green. Motherfucker, what is he doing? How dare he look down on me? Stinky reptile, come out. Believe it or not, I'll kill you in minutes. I can't stand it, I can't stand it. I'm going to kill them. The 4 of them were going crazy. When had they ever been looked down on? Moreover, the other party was a snake. However, they couldn't beat the 3 black turtles in front of them, so they could only vomit blood in anger. Hey, that's not right. Why aren't the 3 of them attacked? After messing around for a while, the 4 of them calmed down and looked inside with a suspicious look. It was because it was too strange. The 3 black turtles attacked them when they saw them, but they didn't attack the 3 people inside. It was too strange. Damn it, don't these black turtles have bad eyesight? Can't they see the situation behind them? No, let's draw the attention of the black turtles and let them attack the kid inside. We'll take advantage of the chaos to go in. The 4 of them discussed and acted again. However, no matter how hard they struggled, the 3 black turtles ignored Lin Xian and didn't respond at all. Oh God, can someone tell me what's going on? Are these 3 black turtles blind? Damn it, there are 3 big people inside. You don't fight them but target the 4 of us. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? The 4 of them were going crazy because there were top-grade spiritual herbs inside. Every one of them was a heaven-defying treasure. However, they were so close but they could only watch helplessly. This was definitely a scene that would make one vomit blood. Don't try anymore. It's useless. There might be a special restriction inside that prevents these black turtles from entering. One of them said. Hearing this, the other 3 fell silent because this was the only explanation that could explain the situation in front of them. Then what should we do? Are we going to give up just like that? Let that kid take advantage of us? They didn't recognize Lin Xian because at this moment, Lin Xian is maintaining a high-speed state, leaving behind afterimages. So, it's normal that they didn't recognize Lin Xian. Otherwise, if they knew it was Lin Xian, they would vomit blood even more. Give up just like that? Impossible. Let's lure more black turtles and block this door. Let's see how this kid comes out later. We can't let anyone else get what we can't get. One of the disciples revealed a sinister smile. Go and take a look in the distance. See if you can lure other black tortoises over. Soon, the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace moved and flew inside. Not long after, they lured 3 more black turtles. 6 black turtles wandered around the herb garden, while the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace retreated to the side and waited with sneers on their faces. Chapter 1083. How dare you steal our things? Let's see how you'll die this time. The 4 disciples of Divine Bird Palace smiled sinisterly. In the premium herb garden, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon quickly picked the herbs. Before long they were done. At this moment, there were only a few scattered spiritual herbs left in the garden. Lin Xian and the other 2 didn't care for these. Forget it, don't pick them. Leave some for the Xian turtle tribe. Lin Xian touched his storage ring and said with a smile. Well, then be merciful and leave some for them. The dark red dragon stopped picking after hearing that. The little white monkey also swished back to Lin Xian's shoulder and nodded. If there were experts from the Xian turtle tribe here, they would definitely vomit blood. Leave some? Fuck, leave some for us. This is all ours, okay? Even the Xian turtle leader's mouth twitched. However, he was already under Lin Xian's control, so he couldn't resist at all. Well, it's about time. Let's go to the next place to search for treasures. Lin Xian clapped his hands in satisfaction. With a flash of his body, he headed to the next location. Outside, the 4 disciples of Divine Bird Palace hid in the dark and stared at the entrance of the herb garden. Suddenly their expressions changed and they became excited. Damn, they're out. They're really out. Let's see how you'll die this time. The few of them sneered. In their opinion, the 6 black tortoises were too powerful. It was impossible for Lin Xian's team to resist them. Aha, I'd like to see what this kid can do. What can he do? He's dead for sure. The 6 Xian turtles are absolutely powerful. That kid can't resist. He deserves it. Who told him to steal our things? The 4 of them discussed quickly as if they had already seen the result they wanted. However, in the next moment, their eyeballs almost fell out because they saw a figure calmly walk out of the herb garden and stride past the 6 Xian turtle guards. The 6 Xian turtle guards were like statues and didn't react at all. Damn it, what's going on? Damn it, are the 6 Xian turtles dead? Why aren't they responding at all? These people were completely stunned. It was as if 10,000 alpacas were running through their minds. This was too strange. They thought that when the other party came out, they would definitely be surrounded by the 6 Xian turtles and killed mercilessly. However, the situation was completely different from what they expected. Not only was the other party not hurt, they didn't even attack. Those Xian turtles stood there motionlessly as if they didn't see anything. Ghost, it must be a ghost. The 4 disciples of Divine Bird Palace went crazy. However, when they saw the silhouette clearly, their hearts trembled and they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Why is it that kid's that kid? What? These people went crazy again because they didn't notice that the person who came out was none other than Lin Xian, their sworn enemy. Xuan Zhen's Xians. Damn it, I can't tolerate this. Go kill him. The elixir is ours. The 4 Divine Bird Palace's disciples' eyes were red. Like crazy rabbits, they rushed up quickly. However, as soon as they went up, the 6 Xian turtle guards in front also moved. They roared and rushed up quickly. In an instant, they stopped the 4 Divine Bird Palace's disciples. Damn it, why are you moving again? Why don't you kill him? What? The 4 people roared wildly. They were really crazy. This scene was too much. They were all humans. Why did they let go of Lin Xian and catch them instead? However, no one answered him. Lin Xian merely sneered. As for the 6 black tortoise bodyguards, they immediately began to attack. Suddenly, there was a miserable howl from behind. Lin Xian's body swayed and set off into the depths of the pavilion. Soon, Lin Xian collected a lot of treasures. Half a day later, he left the pavilion with satisfaction. The martial arts disciples outside were even crazier. They collected the treasures crazily and almost turned the building upside down. Lin Xian did not continue to search. Instead, he wandered around. He had disappeared for half a day and had to show his face. Otherwise, it would arouse suspicion. However, as soon as he came out, he saw a few people from the Divine Bird Palace rushing towards him. It's him. He just took the Supreme Herb Garden. Yes, this guy is too despicable. He took our things. The 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace had escaped and were now pointing at Lin Xian with a ferocious expression. They did escape, but they did not get anything at all and were injured. It could be said that they were very unlucky. Now, seeing Lin Xian appear, they were even angrier. So they quickly called the other disciples of the Divine Bird Palace to come and find trouble. They even turned black into white, saying that Lin Xian took their things. Boy, how dare you take our Divine Bird Palace's things? I think you don't want to live anymore. If you know what's good for you, hand it over obediently and we might let you go. Humph, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you're from the Immortal Martial Academy. Let me tell you, our Divine Bird Palace is not to be trifled with. Hurry up and hand over those supreme herbs. These people were all ferocious as they stared at Lin Xian with fiery eyes. This was because they had already heard from the 4 disciples that Lin Xian had robbed a huge top-grade herb garden. Every single one of the herbs in that garden was extremely precious. Many of them were even extinct in the outside world. This was definitely a huge temptation and wealth. So, these people would not give up. The voices of the 4 were very loud and directly alerted the surrounding people. When the Immortal Martial Academy's disciples saw this, their expressions changed drastically. What's going on? Why are they having a conflict with Lin Xian? I heard that both sides have a grudge, but they shouldn't be having a conflict at this time. Yeah, could there be some other reason? I heard that junior brother Lin took their spiritual herbs and now both sides are arguing. An Immortal Martial Academy disciple said. Junior brother Lin took their spiritual herbs? After the crowd heard this, they were all stunned. But at this moment, Bing Ling and the rest walked over and coldly said, "The items here are originally ownerless. Even if there is one, it should belong to the Xian Turtle clan. Then what basis does the Divine Bird Palace have to say that junior brother Lin took their things? They are obviously picking a fight, not putting our Immortal Martial Academy in their eyes," Yi Yin coldly said from the side. They had all gone on missions with Lin Xian before, so they were very supportive of Lin Xian. Daring to bully us, the Immortal Martial Academy's disciples, they are picking a fight. Let's go and support junior brother Lin. Let's see who dares to look down on our Immortal Martial Academy. Yeah, damn it, the Divine Bird Palace dares to bully our Immortal Martial Academy. They must be tired of living. Chapter 1084. Supporting junior brother Lin, let's go and demand an explanation. With someone taking the lead, these people naturally wouldn't be afraid. The group of people marched forward in a grandiose manner. The number of people from the Divine Bird Palace also increased. In the end, both sides faced each other and the atmosphere was extremely tense. At this moment, the older generation figures were also alarmed. They gave up on searching and hurried over, coldly shouting, "What are you all doing?" The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace turned their heads and hurriedly said, "Elder, you guys came at the right time. This brat is too despicable, daring to snatch our peak-grade spiritual herbs." "Elder, you guys came at the right time. This brat is too despicable, daring to snatch our peak-grade spiritual herbs. You have to seek justice for us." When the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace saw the arrival of the elder, they all shouted loudly. On the side of the Immortal Martial Academy, a wave of angry scolded, "Hui, return your stuff. What items here belong to you? How shameless. That's right, you guys can't snatch the spiritual herbs from us. It's because your strength isn't enough, yet you guys are still complaining. Your skin is really thick." The Immortal Martial Academy didn't back down either. Lin Xian had a cold smile on his face as he coldly stared at them. These fellows really dared to say that they wanted to snatch their spiritual herbs? Did he even need to snatch them? Those four fellows didn't even enter the door. However, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace didn't care about that. Firstly, Lin Xian was originally their enemy, and secondly, the temptation of peak-grade spiritual herbs was too great. Even these older generation figures couldn't be spared. Hence, they hurriedly rushed over, staring at Lin Xian as they coldly shouted, "Brat, I'll give you a chance. Obediently hand over the spiritual herbs you snatched, and I can let bygones be bygones. Yeah, we can give the Immortal Martial Academy some face as long as you hand over the spiritual herbs." If it weren't for the Immortal Martial Academy, they would have already made a move. Why would they waste time talking nonsense with Lin Xian? But now they didn't give Lin Xian any face and coldly berated him. Lin Xian coldly laughed. "After living for so many years, why are you still so stupid? Just because he said he snatched it? Which eye of yours saw it? Don't quibble, it was obviously you who stole our things." The four Divine Bird Palace disciples shouted loudly. Lin Xian was so angry that he laughed. He quickly said, "Well, tell me, how many spirit herbs did I steal from you? What kind of spirit herbs were they? As long as you can name one, I will give you all the spiritual herbs I have today." Suddenly, the disciples of Divine Bird Palace were speechless. Because they were just talking nonsense, how could they know? However, in front of so many people, they couldn't admit it directly. They could only brace themselves and say it. "Those are all extinct spiritual medicines, how could we possibly recognize them? But we do know that just by looking at their luster and aura, they are definitely top quality." "You don't recognize him? Forget it, I can't blame you for being ignorant." Lin Xian shook his head slightly. "You should be able to remember how many stalks. At your level, you should be able to tell with a glance." The disciples of Divine Bird Palace were speechless again. Of course they didn't know. One must know that they didn't even have the chance to enter the herb garden. Seeing them speechless, Lin Xian coldly said, "You can't even answer the most basic question and still say that I stole from you? This lie is a little too big." The surrounding Immortal Martial Academy disciples were enraged when they heard these words. "Fuck, I originally thought that it was a robbery, but now it seems like it wasn't a robbery at all. You guys didn't even see a strand of hair and you're just randomly spreading rumors? What do you mean, you think that our Immortal Martial Academy is easy to bully? Fuck, you have to give us an explanation or else don't think that you can fool us so easily." The Immortal Martial Academy disciples were anxious. Both sides had just joined hands and were allies, but now the other side directly shed all pretense of cordiality, wanting to snatch the spiritual herbs from Lin Xian's hands. This was not putting the Immortal Martial Academy in their eyes at all. Thinking of this, the group of Immortal Martial Academy disciples were enraged, and glared at the people of Divine Bird Palace with unkind expressions. The countenances of the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were extremely unsightly, cold sweat trickling down their foreheads, and the expressions of the elders were also extremely dark. They didn't expect that the disciples under them would be so stupid. They didn't even understand these questions and dared to directly slander Lin Xian. This was simply courting death. Not only that, they were also dragged into the water. Now that they were in such a passive situation, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace felt their faces turning black, as though they were slapped in the face. However, the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were unwilling to give up. Finally, they gritted their teeth and hurriedly said, "I don't know what method this brat used, but he's actually able to control the black tortoises. I personally saw him swagger past the 6 black tortoises, and those black tortoises attacked us in a frenzy. Yes, that's the reason why we missed out on the spiritual herbs." The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace yelled in a frenzy. However, the Immortal Martial Academy disciples were still laughing coldly. "Doesn't this prove that you guys are useless? Hurry up and scram, don't embarrass yourself here. Wanting to slander Junior Brother Lin, this is simply an impossible thing." That's right, who is Junior Brother Lin? He's an influential figure in our Immortal Martial Academy. He can annihilate all of you with just a finger. These people wouldn't even believe a word of the other party. Lin Xian's expression was also indifferent. Although the other party's guess was not far from the truth, and he was indeed able to control the black tortoises, the other party didn't have any evidence, so he wasn't afraid at all. He wanted to see what other methods the other party could use. After hearing this, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace frowned. "What you said, is it true?" "It's true, Elder. This is what we saw with our own eyes, there's absolutely no mistake." After hearing this, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace immediately stared at Lin Xian with a cold smile. "Brat, how are you going to explain yourself now? Could it be that you and the black tortoises have some shady dealings?" The elder of the Divine Bird Palace shouted loudly. However, Lin Xian just laughed and gave the other party a disdainful look. This group of people's brains must be made of paste. Spies of the black tortoises, only they could think of such a thing. Lin Xian couldn't even be bothered to explain such words. He could only look at them with deep disdain. At this moment, Elder Song and the others also hurried over and asked coldly, "What's going on?" "Elder Song, you came at the right time." "Yeah, Elder, these 3-headed birds are too despicable. They wanted to bully Junior Brother Lin and even wanted to snatch the spiritual herbs in his hands." The surrounding disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy chattered and quickly explained the situation. After hearing this, the faces of Elder Song and the others sank. One must know that Lin Xian wasn't an ordinary disciple of the Immortal Martial Academy. He was an influential figure in the academy. Not only that, he was also a special person who was specially taken care of by the academy. Therefore, Elder Song and the others definitely wouldn't let him suffer a loss. Very quickly, his gaze turned and stared at the people of the Divine Bird Palace. He said coldly, "The few of you, aren't you going a little too far by doing this? Do you really think that the Immortal Martial Academy is easy to bully?" Chapter 1085. However, the temptation of the top-grade spirit medicine was too great. They could only brace themselves and say this. "Elder Song, you misunderstood. I'm not targeting the Immortal Martial Academy. It's just that this brat is too suspicious. How about this, I won't make things difficult for him. As long as he can explain why those black tortoises didn't attack him, we'll let this matter rest. If he can't explain, then don't blame us." After saying this, the elder of the Divine Bird Palace didn't say anything else. Instead, he stared coldly at Lin Xian. They wanted to see how he would explain himself. Hearing this, Elder Song and the rest's faces darkened. From the looks of it, Lin Xian didn't intend to give up. Lin Xian, on the other hand, rolled his eyes speechlessly. He stood out, looked at the people of the Divine Bird Palace and said coldly, "I thought that since you've lived for so long, you should have some experience. But I didn't expect that you can't even understand such a simple thing. There's a cultivation technique called concealment. It can conceal a cultivator's aura. Do you understand? Coincidentally, I know this cultivation technique. Is it strange?" Lin Xian said with disdain. Finally, he used the heaven-changing technique to conceal his aura. Instantly, everyone was stunned because they really couldn't sense Lin Xian's aura. Do you want me to completely conceal myself and let you all broaden your horizons? Lin Xian's voice was filled with mockery. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the faces of the people of the Divine Bird Palace darkened. However, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy laughed. That's right. You don't even understand such a simple principle. Are you still a 6th grade sect? What a joke. Sai, I've really broadened my horizons. I originally thought that the difference between us and a 6th grade sect wasn't that big. Who would have thought that the difference between us is like heaven and earth? I've never even heard of such a cultivation technique. Since Elder Song and the rest were here, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy weren't afraid that Lin Xian would attack them. But after hearing this, the faces of the people of the Divine Bird Palace darkened. They were so angry that their bodies trembled. Especially the few elders, their faces turned green. Humiliation. This was an absolute humiliation. As elders, they had never been looked down upon before. But now, they were looked down upon by a group of youngsters. This wasn't just a slap to their faces, it was a kick to their faces. Moreover, they were the ones who foolishly sent Lian Lian up. Thinking of this, they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The elders of Divine Bird Palace had an impulse to die, but Elder Song and the others also laughed. They were originally a little worried, but now it seemed that their worries were unnecessary. This was because they didn't even need to do anything. Lin Xian had already slapped the other party's face until it was swollen. Seniors, I wonder if you can understand my explanation? Lin Xian asked with a smile. Well, finally, an elder could not hold it in any longer and spurted out a mouthful of blood. He was angry, he was completely angry. It could be said that he was too hateful. Let's go. One of the elders waved his hand and left with his people. They had no choice but to leave because they were too ashamed to stay here any longer. Seeing the people from the Divine Bird Palace leaving in a huff, the surrounding Immortal Martial Academy students cheered. Many of them gave Lin Xian a thumbs up. Junior brother Lin, you're awesome. That was too satisfying. I've long found them an eyesore. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, elders. Lin Xian was not arrogant and thanked the people around him. Although he was fine without their help, the people around him did put in a lot of effort. He was still very grateful. No problem, it's a small matter. The group of people laughed. Then the crowd dispersed again and searched for treasures. Lin Xian did not stop because according to the information he got from the Black Tortoise leader, there was a bigger treasure vault. There was no way he would miss that place. Using the illusory demon steps, Lin Xian turned into a flash of lightning and flew into the distance. However, things did not go as smoothly as he imagined because the treasure vault was discovered. In front of him, there were many people from the Immortal Martial Academy and Divine Bird Palace. They were all here? Lin Xian was incomparably shocked. It seemed that it was impossible for him to take all the treasures alone. At this moment, the people in front also saw Lin Xian. The Immortal Martial Academy did not do anything, but the people from the Divine Bird Palace snorted coldly. Just now, Lin Xian slapped their faces hard. Now that they saw Lin Xian, they were especially jealous. Lin Xian sneered and did not care about the other party's attitude at all. Instead, he walked in with big strides. Kid, there are enough people here. Go away. Among them, a young man from the Divine Bird Palace snorted. This young man was about 30 years old. His expression was very arrogant. He stared at Lin Xian and spoke unkindly. There was no choice. Although this was a treasure vault, there were only so many things. One more person would mean less things for them. Therefore, the people from the Divine Bird Palace did not want Lin Xian to come in. However, how could Lin Xian care about them? He must enter this place. In front, when the martial artist from the Divine Bird Palace saw that Lin Xian did not stop, his face sank. He snorted coldly and quickly waved his hand. A vigorous energy gushed out. It was incomparably sharp and rushed towards Lin Xian. This palm was very sharp and did not hold back at all. If one was hit, even a fourth heaven venerable would not be able to withstand it. Seeing this scene, the faces of many Immortal Martial Academy disciples changed. They did not expect the people from the Divine Bird Palace to really attack. On the other hand, the disciples from the Divine Bird Palace sneered. They had long disliked Lin Xian. Now that they could teach him a lesson, of course it would be great. The young man waved his palm and sneered. This is a lesson for you. However, before he could finish his words, he was stunned. Because in front of him, a sword light flashed and split the sharp palm shadow. Lin Xian was not affected at all and continued to walk forward. What? How is this possible? Seeing this scene, many disciples from the Divine Bird Palace screamed. They did not believe it because the young man was not an ordinary person. He was a genius of the younger generation. Among the Fourth Heaven Venerables there were few who could match him. Originally they thought that this palm strike could make the other party scram, but they did not expect that it would not hurt the other party at all. It did not even affect him. The disciples from the Divine Bird Palace were shocked, but the young man's face sank. Shameful, this was too shameful. Where was he supposed to put his face now? No, I must get back at him. Thinking of this, he still wanted to attack. However, in the next moment Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. His sharp gaze swept over like a sword light. Feeling this gaze, the young man's body trembled, revealing a terrified expression. That gaze was too terrifying. It made him feel fear in his heart and his body trembled uncontrollably. The young man could not stop all of this. Originally, the spiritual energy in his body was surging, but under this gaze, it was completely extinguished. Chapter 1086. Everyone was stunned, especially the young man who had attacked before. His face was extremely dark. He did not expect Lin Xian to be so powerful. He gritted his teeth and was about to attack again. However, when he saw Lin Xian's cold eyes, he suddenly felt fear in his heart. His eyes were too terrifying. They were like two sharp blades that pierced into his heart. For a moment, the young man did not dare to attack again. Lin Xian, on the other hand, snorted coldly and strode forward. This time, the people of the Divine Bird Palace did not dare to attack again. Lin Xian did not pay any attention to them. Instead, he quickly scanned the area. There were so many people here that he could not collect materials wantonly. Therefore, he could only pick one or two of the more precious items to sell. Lin Xian knew that there was a very precious tortoiseshell in the treasury from his conversation with the Black Tortoise leader. It was said that it was a tortoiseshell passed down from the ancestors of the Black Tortoise tribe. Everyone knew that the Black Tortoise tribe had a strong defense. A tortoiseshell passed down from ancient times must have been left behind by a peerless powerhouse in the tribe. Therefore, one could imagine how strong its defense was. Lin Xian wanted to integrate the tortoiseshell into his Red Lotus armor. This would definitely increase his defense greatly. Thinking of this, he was excited. He had to get his hands on this item. In the next moment, he scanned the entire treasury and searched for it. With his outstanding soul power and the information he had obtained from the Black Tortoise leader, Lin Xian quickly found the tortoiseshell. However, it was different from what he had imagined. The tortoiseshell did not look as powerful as it seemed. It even looked a little ordinary. In this dazzling collection of treasures, it was truly too inconspicuous, and it was even to the extent that it was almost forgotten. This was better. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up slightly. In the next moment, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the quaint tortoiseshell. Stop. Suddenly, a cold shout was heard. This voice contained a hint of anger. Immediately after, a majestic energy burst forth and quickly blasted forward, blocking the light palm. Lin Xian frowned when he saw what happened, as it was the Divine Bird Palace that made a move. Although the people of Divine Bird Palace did not know the true origin of the tortoiseshell, they did not even take a fancy to the tortoiseshell. However, no matter what, they would not easily hand over anything in the treasury to Lin Xian. That was why the scene earlier had occurred. The one who attacked was a woman in red. Although she was pretty, she had a mean look on her face. Her chin was raised like a proud peacock. She was also a heaven's pride of the younger generation of the Divine Bird Palace. Her cultivation was even higher than that of the young man who had attacked before. She was even close to the fifth heaven of venerable. The woman looked at Lin Xian with a murderous look in her eyes. Scram. I want that tortoise shell. Lin Xian's voice was equally cold and sharp. This aggressive attitude directly angered the woman in red, and made the faces of the people of Divine Bird Palace turn black. They were a sixth-rank sect, a lofty existence. However, at this moment, a junior was completely disregarding them. How preposterous. However, with the previous example, the woman in red did not immediately attack. Instead, she said coldly, "No one can touch the things here. Let's discuss how to distribute them." Discuss? Distribute? Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned and turned to look at Li Yunfei behind him. Li Yunfei's face was also ugly. He was probably arguing with the people of Divine Bird Palace just now. However, he still transmitted his voice to Lin Xian and explained the situation. Because this place was discovered by Divine Bird Palace first, and the two sects joined forces to break the prohibition, Li Yunfei wanted to share it 50-50, but the other side was unwilling. Hearing this, Lin Xian sneered. No matter who discovered it first, since they worked together to break the prohibition, it should be 50-50. But now, Divine Bird Palace was obviously insatiable. Lin Xian did not have a good impression of the people of Divine Bird Palace, and now he was even more disgusted. What's so great about discovering it first? If you have the ability, break it yourself. If you don't have the ability, how can there be such a good thing in the world? Lin Xian sneered. Junior, you're courting death. Hearing this, the people of Divine Bird Palace suddenly shouted. Chapter 1087. The people from the Divine Bird Palace finally aroused the anger of the Immortal Martial Academy disciples. A group of people stared ahead with unfriendly expressions. At this moment, Li Yunfei also said coldly, "We didn't see junior brother Lin make a move, and I believe you guys didn't see it either. I think no one can make a move in front of so many people without being noticed. At least with junior brother Lin's skills, it's impossible. So please control your attitude or else our Immortal Martial Academy won't be easy to deal with." Hearing this, the people from the Divine Bird Palace snorted, but they didn't say anything, but their expressions were really ugly. Because this was too strange. A treasure had disappeared in front of everyone just like that? Moreover, they didn't think it was possible for Lin Xian to make a move, because he didn't have the strength to do so. One had to know that the Divine Bird Palace didn't only have the younger generation, but also the older generation. If it was really Lin Xian who made a move, they should be able to sense it, but now they didn't even notice a trace of abnormality, which meant that Lin Xian's methods were definitely above theirs. Therefore, based on cultivation strength, they ruled out Lin Xian. But in their hearts, they couldn't let go of Lin Xian. Because this was too coincidental, Lin Xian just arrived and such a thing happened, which made them suspicious. Then what do you think is going on? The woman in red asked. Of course they won't let this matter go. Li Yunfei pondered for a moment and said slowly, to be able to make a move without being noticed, no one here can do it, even the older generation from both sides can't do it. And those black tortoises, it's even more impossible for them to do such a thing. Other than the black tortoises and us, there aren't many people who can be suspicious. Hearing Li Yunfei's words, everyone was stunned, but the people from the Divine Bird Palace were stunned, and then they exclaimed, "You mean that mysterious woman Zhao Shui?" Zhao Shui was incomparably mysterious, and her strength was even stronger than the older generation. Not only that, she didn't belong to any power, so she was the most likely. In terms of skills, it was very likely to be her. The people from the Divine Bird Palace quickly discussed. Lin Xian was also in a daze. He couldn't figure out how this matter was related to Zhao Shui. However, what made him speechless was that other than Zhao Shui, no one else here had such strength. Shaking his head helplessly, Lin Xian could only mourn for Zhao Shui. However, he was not worried because based on her previous performance, Zhao Shui's strength was too powerful. She was not inferior to those seniors. Therefore, it didn't matter even if these people were suspicious. On the other side, the more the people of Divine Bird Palace thought about it, the more likely it was. They all gnashed their teeth, wishing they could find Zhao Shui and interrogate her. However, they were only angry and did not dare to do so. After all, the other party's strength far surpassed theirs. I thought she was an expert, but I didn't expect her to do such a thing. That's right. Not only did she occupy the largest palace, but now she's secretly attacking our treasures. She's too abominable. Hearing the other party's curses, Lin Xian was completely relieved. These people did not dare to cause trouble for Zhao Shui. In that case, he could take advantage of this opportunity. Little White, get a few more treasures. Lin Xian transmitted his voice. In his sleeve, the snow-white little monkey's big eyes narrowed into crescents. It held the small worn-out bowl and attacked again. Then a fist-sized purple liquid disappeared. What? The purple demon shark's blood essence disappeared. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned, especially those from the Divine Bird Palace. They were going crazy. That was equivalent to the blood essence of a half-step demon king, the most precious thing in this treasury. However, at this moment it disappeared. That's too evil. This is too much. Give me back my half-step demon king's blood essence. Those from the Divine Bird Palace stomped their feet in anger. They had their eyes on that purple blood essence for a long time. They originally wanted to get it during the negotiation later. But they did not expect it to be gone now. Damn Zhao Shui, you've gone too far. Our Divine Bird Palace and you are irreconcilable. Despicable and shameless, I'm so angry. A few seniors also roared at the sky. Those from the Immortal Martial Academy were also stunned. They did not expect this to happen. However, it was good to see those from the Divine Bird Palace being humiliated. At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Who dares to talk about me behind my back? Along with the voice came a white figure. Zhao Shui. Seeing that figure, everyone was stunned. They did not expect that Zhao Shui was really here. Lin Xian was also stunned. This was too much of a coincidence. But this is good too. It's a good chance to teach those from the Divine Bird Palace a lesson. Thinking of this, Lin Xian did not attack anymore. Instead he watched the show. At this moment, Zhao Shui stood in the void, exuding a terrifying aura. Her beautiful eyes stared at those from the Divine Bird Palace. Feeling this terrifying aura, those disciples from the Divine Bird Palace did not dare to speak. Even the people of the older generation were astonished at this moment. Go on, why did you stop? Zhao Shui said coldly. She was just passing by, but she did not expect someone to scold her. How audacious. One must know that she was the one who defeated the expert from the Shen Turtle clan, so everything here belonged to her. And now, someone dared to scold her? Hearing Zhao Shui's words, those disciples from the Divine Bird Palace did not dare to speak. They had no choice. Her aura was too terrifying. It was not something they could resist. Give me a reason, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Zhao Shui said in a low voice. We don't want to, but there's something missing here. An elder from the Divine Bird Palace told her about the matter. You mean you suspect that I stole it? Zhao Shui's face darkened. In the next moment, a huge force gushed out from her body. It was like a huge mountain wave crashing down. Boom. The disciples from the Divine Bird Palace were hit and flew out, vomiting blood. Even those seniors retreated in embarrassment. The elder from the Divine Bird Palace was shocked and trembled with anger. She had gone too far. She had gone too far. Zhao Shui ignored him and said coldly, Do I need to steal what I want? Ridiculous. I've always taken what I want. Just like this. With that, she waved her hand and took away a treasure the size of a hill. Seeing this, those from the Divine Bird Palace felt their hearts bleed. That was a genuine treasure. However, they did not dare to say anything. Her aura was enough to injure them. That kind of power was not something they could fight against. Moreover, they also understood that it was not Zhao Shui who did it. She did not need to be sneaky. She could have just taken it just like now. Chapter 1088. Looking at the scene in front of them, the faces of those from the Divine Bird Palace turned green. Many of them were heartbroken. Those were genuine treasures and they were taken away just like that. And they could only watch helplessly. The disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy were also excited, but they didn't dare to move. After all, the fate of the Divine Bird Palace was clear. However, there was an exception. Seeing Zhao Shui taking action, Lin Xian didn't use the little white monkey anymore. He also started to divide the treasures in the room. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes almost popped out, especially those from the Divine Bird Palace. Other than shock, they were also furious. Those were their things and they were taken away by this despicable guy. Lin Xian, how dare you? Brat, you're courting death. Put down the things. Countless voices rang out, all from the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace. They couldn't take it anymore. If it was Zhao Shui, then forget it because they couldn't beat her and could only suffer. But Lin Xian didn't care. They weren't afraid of Lin Xian at all. Therefore, when the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace saw that Lin Xian was also taking the treasures, they were instantly enraged. However, Lin Xian didn't care about those people at all, and quickly took action. There were good things in here, he had to take them quickly. At this moment, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy widened their eyes and exclaimed in their hearts. This Lin Xian was too daring. At this moment, Zhao Shui also turned around, her beautiful face carrying a trace of doubt. She didn't expect that someone would dare to take action. Seeing Zhao Shui looking over, Lin Xian also stopped. He had a trace of hope in his heart, and that was that she could recognize him. However, he was disappointed because Zhao Shui still didn't recognize him. Zhao Shui's beautiful eyes turned. She didn't know why, but she felt that the figure in front of her was very familiar, as if she had seen him somewhere before. However, she just couldn't remember. You dare to take action? Zhao Shui asked softly. Why wouldn't I dare? Lin Xian smiled. It's my honor to fight alongside a beauty. You're very special. I think I've seen you somewhere before, Zhao Shui said. Oh. Hearing this, Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. Did she remember something? However, Zhao Shui continued, it just feels familiar, but I can't remember. The two of them chatted for a while before harvesting the treasures again. When the people of the Divine Bird Palace saw that Lin Xian was not punished, they immediately became angry and wanted to attack him. Sure enough, a few bold disciples ran out wanting to make a move. At this moment, Zhao Shue's brows furrowed as she nodded. As if struck by lightning, the disciples hurriedly ran back in fright. Lin Xian happened to see this scene and immediately sneered. They were indeed a bunch of good-for-nothings. The people of the Immortal Martial Academy also tried to make a move, but they were also warned. Thus, a very strange scene appeared. Countless disciples stared at Lin Xian and Zhao Shui as they looted the entire treasury. Although they obtained many treasures, Lin Xian was still a little disappointed that Zhao Shui did not recognize him. He was now sure that Zhao Shui must have lost her memory for some reason, but whether it was permanent or not, he still did not know. Lin Xian sighed as he gazed at the beautiful back of her figure. Zhao Shui left. Not long after, Elder Song and the rest arrived. This made the people of the Divine Bird Palace gnash their teeth in anger because they did not have the chance to attack Lin Xian. That Zhao Shui left. It seems like she's heading towards the Dragon Palace. We don't want to do it here. Although the things here are good, they're still lacking compared to the Dragon Palace. Elder Song said. Everyone nodded because they were almost done with their loot. At the same time, they were also very excited because just the Shen Turtle tribe alone had so many treasures. One could imagine how attractive the Dragon Palace was. The Dragon Palace was at the center of the entire underwater building. It was an ancient and mysterious existence. Moreover, everyone knew that the closer they were to the Dragon Palace, the stronger the sea demons were. For example, the Shen Turtle tribe was much stronger than the Shrimp Soldiers. Fortunately, they had Zhao Shui. Otherwise, they would not have been able to enter so easily. With Elder Song's suggestion, everyone did not delay and quickly moved on. They were in such a hurry because they wanted to borrow Zhao Shui's power to enter the Dragon Palace. The people of the Divine Bird Palace also had the same plan. Therefore, no one said anything and quickly moved on. Not long after, they passed through the area of the Shen Turtle tribe and arrived at a vast area. In front of them, there was a 5-colored crystal palace. It was very huge and looked like an immortal palace. Looking at the palace in front of them, everyone's breathing quickened. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes because the surging energy was even clearer here. The dark red divine dragon curled its lips, seemingly uninterested. Lin Xian was rather surprised by this. According to this dragon's character, it would definitely jump up when it saw a treasure with such surging energy. Perhaps it would have already attacked it. But now it was indifferent. Aren't you tempted? Lin Xian asked in confusion. It's not a good thing. The dark red dragon shook its head. Although the energy is very powerful, its aura is not righteous. It even has evil in it. I'm a pure Eastern divine dragon. I won't swallow such an evil source. An evil source? Lin Xian was shocked when he heard that. To be honest, he did not feel it before. Now that Ruffian Dragon mentioned it, he really did feel an evil aura in the energy. However, he could not say that it was evil because he only felt that the murderous aura was slightly heavier. Since Ruffian Dragon did not want to rob it, it could not be better. Lin Xian touched his chin and looked forward. Not only him but everyone around him was also looking forward with burning eyes. Especially those of the older generation. Their eyes were red and their breathing was heavy. They were too old and it was not easy for them to improve their cultivation. However, if they could obtain this surging energy, their cultivation would definitely improve greatly. At that time, not only would their strength increase, but their lifespan would also increase. Finally, someone could not bear it anymore. A disciple of the Divine Bird Palace walked up. Everyone was watching nervously because they knew that there must be a restriction in such an important place. That disciple also walked up cautiously. However, he was not stopped and walked in. What? Everyone was stunned when they saw that. Then they all went crazy. There's no restriction? Ah. God is helping me. Charge. The group of people went crazy and rushed in. Lin Xian was also surprised. He took a deep breath and his eyes were full of caution because this was too abnormal. How could there be no restriction in such an important place? Chapter 1089. The fact that there were no restrictions in the Dragon Palace was very surprising. Perhaps it had been broken by someone, or perhaps it didn't exist in the first place. No one knew the exact situation and no one cared. What they cared about was what was inside the Dragon Palace. Lin Xian followed the crowd and walked into the Dragon Palace. He ignored the treasures around him because one thing attracted his attention. Not only him but everyone's attention was drawn to it. In the middle of the Dragon Palace, there was a dragon pillar with 2 dragons engraved on it that were coiling around each other. Between the 2 dragon heads, there was a blue crystal ball that was flowing with brilliance. It was obvious that it contained powerful energy. The Dragon Pearl. Someone shouted. Immediately, everyone's gaze was focused on it. This energy, countless people were excited, including the older generation figures. However, in the next moment, everyone's expression changed and revealed a look of shock. That was because there was a white figure in front of them. Zhao Shui, a disciple exclaimed. It was indeed Zhao Shui. Moreover, not only was there Zhao Shui, there were also other figures. Those were all sea monsters. Many of them were injured and a few of them were lying on the ground. They had obviously been killed. It seemed that before they arrived, Zhao Shui had a huge battle with those people. However, it didn't seem to be going well because the Dragon Pearl was still under the protection of those sea monsters. Lin Xian's expression was also solemn because he knew that in order to obtain the Dragon Pearl, he had to defeat those sea monsters. He frowned slightly and looked ahead. In front of him, there were 3 powerful mermaids with human bodies and shark heads. They looked ferocious and there was a shark tail on their backs. The 3 of them were abnormally powerful and far surpassed the other sea monsters. In addition to the 3 of them, there was an even more dangerous pure-blooded mermaid. That person was even more demonic. His entire body was shrouded in an inky aura, and his hair was fluffy like the tentacles of an octopus that kept twisting. In addition to his strange appearance, his aura was also the most powerful. He had reached the 5th heaven of the supremacy realm. Seeing this scene, many people were inwardly shocked and even more people wanted to continue onward. Everyone stepped back. Zhao Shui didn't turn around, but she reminded him coldly. However, no one cared. From their point of view, Zhao Shui simply didn't want them to participate. In front of such a precious Dragon Ball, how could these people listen? Thus, in an instant, many disciples rushed forward. However, in the next instant, those people started to panic. This was because all the martial artists who approached the Dragon Ball were pulled by a suction force and uncontrollably walked forward. Moreover, the closer they got to the Dragon Ball, the less flesh they had. In the end, they were reduced to a pile of bones. No. The elders of the Divine Bird Palace roared madly, because among them were their proud disciples. Elder Song and the rest of the elders were also shocked. They kept shouting no one was allowed to go over. In fact, even without Elder Song's reprimand, everyone retreated. No one dared to step forward. The scene just now was too strange. Those disciples who had turned into skeletons did not scream in pain. They even had smiles on their faces as if they were on a pilgrimage. What's the situation? This thing is too strange. Yeah, it's as if there's some kind of magical power that can attract people. Damn it, I don't want to go up anymore. This thing doesn't look good. Many disciples shook their heads madly. Hey, someone went up? Fuck, who's so fierce? Does he want to die? Seeing someone not retreating, these people were stunned and screamed. Lin Xian, its junior brother Lin. The disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy exclaimed. Junior brother Lin, come back quickly. Bing Ling and the rest shouted, trying to call Lin Xian back. Not good, could it be that he's under the influence of evil? What should we do? That Dragon Ball is too strange. The disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy were anxious. Elder Song and the rest also had a gloomy expression. On the other side, the people of the Divine Bird Palace sneered. Originally, they had lost many disciples and their mood was heavy. But now, seeing this scene, they were all excited. Haha, it's that brat. He's also under the influence of evil? That's great. He's really overestimating himself. Even the elders don't dare to go up. A junior actually dares to go near, he's really courting death. The evils we bring on ourselves are the hardest to bear. The group of disciples of the Divine Bird Palace sneered. But soon they couldn't laugh anymore because they found that Lin Xian was fine. His body wasn't injured and his face didn't show any infatuation. He even stopped halfway. What's going on? Could it be that the brat is fine? How is this possible? The group of disciples of the Divine Bird Palace looked as if they had seen a ghost. Ah, I knew it. With junior brother Lin's ability, he'll definitely be fine. Yeah, since junior brother Lin dares to go up, it means that he's confident. Ridiculous, some people are still mocking him. He's really slapping himself in the face. Dare to doubt junior brother Lin? Is there something wrong with his head? The people of the Immortal Martial Academy retorted, looking at the Divine Bird Palace with disdain. These people were too despicable. This was a slap in the face. Hearing these mocking words, the faces of the people of the Divine Bird Palace darkened, their expressions cold. Zhao Shui was also very surprised. She didn't expect that there would be someone who could walk up. So she looked at Lin Xian a few more times. Lin Xian shrugged and said slowly, from the situation just now, those people should be affected by the soul power. So as long as they're careful, don't get confused and stand outside the safety line, there shouldn't be a problem. Lin Xian wouldn't joke around with his life. The reason why he walked up was because he understood everything. Since Zhao Shui was fine, it meant that the Dragon Ball wasn't as scary as imagined. Or it could be said that there was a condition for it to be scary. After analyzing, Lin Xian found this condition. That was why he was able to stand safely now. When the people behind heard this, they also showed a look of realization. A small number of people showed a happy expression, but most of them still had a bitter expression. Doubtful they didn't have such strong soul power. Elder Song and a few of the older generation people breathed a sigh of relief, and carefully approached. Dugu Outyan's whole body was filled with sword intent, and was incomparably sharp. Naturally, he wasn't afraid of any soul power interference. Li Yunfei also raised his hand and threw out a tattered picture scroll, holding it above his head, and slowly approached. This picture scroll was yellowed. Although it was incomplete, its aura was terrifying. At this moment, rays of light hung down, enveloping Li Yunfei. On the other side, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace also used various methods to get closer to the Dragon Ball. Lin Xian didn't care about those people behind him. The reason why he said it was because he knew that it was easy to get close, but it was very difficult to seize the Dragon Ball. He had to borrow the strength of everyone. Zhao Shui also didn't care. At this moment she was staring at the Dragon Ball, carefully studying it. Because she felt an inexplicable sense of danger, so she didn't act rashly. Chapter 1090. What do you think? Zhao Shui asked. Lin Xian was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Zhao Shui to ask him. After pondering for a moment, he slowly said, logically speaking, such an important place should be protected by layers of formations. But there's nothing here. Don't you think it's strange? Hearing this, Zhao Shui nodded lightly. Lin Xian continued, there must be something wrong when things are out of the ordinary. So I think this Dragon Ball must be very evil. Or rather, there are dangers here that we don't know about. Your analysis is about the same as mine, Zhao Shui said softly. Then she moved her jade-like feet and walked forward. It seemed like she wanted to deal with the sea demons in front of her. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. To be honest, he also wanted to get this Dragon Ball because the energy contained in it was too strong. If he could get it, his cultivation base would definitely increase again. So, seeing Zhao Shui walking forward, Lin Xian also took a deep breath and moved forward again. Seeing this, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy were shocked. They had just taken a few steps and were almost affected by the Dragon Ball and lost their minds. Lin Xian was even closer than them, but he was fine and still wanted to move forward. The gap between them was too big. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were even more gloomy. They glared at Lin Xian fiercely and wanted to eat him alive. Damn it, this kid is too strange. He can actually get so close. Is he not afraid of the Dragon Ball's influence? How is that possible? This kid is too arrogant. Just watch, he'll be in trouble soon. Yes, maybe he'll lose his mind soon and become a pile of bones. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace said fiercely. However, to their disappointment, Lin Xian was not affected at all. In fact, he even reached the front of the two dragon pillars in the end. Looking at the lifelike dragon pillars, Lin Xian was amazed. However, he didn't act rashly because the Dragon Ball was affecting him too much at this moment. If he made the slightest mistake, he would be affected. It could be said that although Lin Xian appeared to be safe, he was actually in grave danger. However, when Lin Xian activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul, all the effects disappeared. The Great Dragon Sword Spirit was an offensive saint art that could destroy everything. Therefore, even if the Dragon Orb was very strange, it could not fight against the Great Dragon Sword Spirit. In fact, the moment Lin Xian activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul, the Dragon Pearl trembled slightly before releasing an even more demonic light. Lin Xian noticed this. Could it be that the Dragon Pearl is afraid of the Great Dragon Sword Spirit? Thinking of this, he was overjoyed. If that was really the case, then that would be great. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian extended his hand and slowly reached for the two dragon pillars. The next moment he touched the dragon pillar. On the two dragon pillars, two real dragons were engraved, circling each other. At this moment, Lin Xian's hand gently brushed it, causing an energy fluctuation. Lin Xian was overjoyed because he felt that the two dragon pillars also contained powerful energy. Although it was not as powerful as the dragon orb, it was still very amazing. More importantly, Lin Xian could now come into contact with it. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely envious, while the people of the Divine Bird Palace gritted their teeth. Damn it, why is he still okay? Impossible, this is an illusion, this must be an illusion. Damn, how is it possible he really touched the dragon pillar? The people of the Divine Bird Palace felt like they were going crazy, and even the elders' faces were gloomy. However, at this moment, an angry voice came from behind, like the roar of a savage beast. Stupid humans, how dare you disturb the Dragon King's rest, you will all die. This voice was filled with endless anger. When everyone heard this, they were shocked and turned around. Then they saw a sea demon rushing over quickly. He was still injured, as if he had just experienced a great battle. Prime Minister Hai, this group of humans wants to snatch the dragon orb. A few surviving sea demons screamed. Prime Minister Hai rushed over quickly, and when he saw the sea demon corpses all over the ground, he was so angry that he trembled. Damn humans, how dare you kill my sea tribes people, the Dragon King will not let you off. Everyone's face changed because Prime Minister Hai's aura was too powerful, almost at the 7th heavenly layer of Venerable Realm. For such a character, except for Zhao Shui, no one among them could stop him. However, what shocked them even more was that this powerful Prime Minister Hai seemed to be injured, and the injuries were fresh. Who was it that could injure Prime Minister Hai? Just as everyone was puzzled, another earth-shaking shout came from behind them, accompanied by a terrifying aura that overflowed into the sky. In the next moment, countless figures rushed over from afar, bringing with them a powerful torrent, and their momentum was terrifying. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned, and even Lin Xian frowned. Because there were too many people, and it was almost the same as the team of the Immortal Martial Academy and the Divine Bird Palace. Such a team was in existence that couldn't be ignored, not to mention that they were here for the Dragon Orb. Moreover, there was a powerful aura of the 7th heavenly layer of Venerable Realm. Even Elder Song and the rest had a gloomy expression on their faces. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man in a silver robe, holding a folding fan in his hand. When he waved it, it brought about surging waves. Courting death. Prime Minister Hai was furious when he saw those people chasing him. In a flash, he arrived near the dragon orb and quickly waved the staff in his hand. Lord Dragon King, please bestow me power. Following his incantation, the dragon orb above suddenly released a dazzling light, and a dragon-shaped spiritual energy flew out from the dragon orb and entered Prime Minister Hai's body. Immediately, Prime Minister Hai's face lit up, and a low sound came from his body like thunder. A layer of light gushed out and enveloped him. Humph, insignificant tricks, no matter what you use, it's futile. Stay here. The voice of the middle-aged man holding the fan was cold, like that of an emperor. In the next moment he waved the folding fan in his hand, and a huge curved wind blade was released. The seawater was ruthlessly cut open, and the entire underwater world seemed to be cut in half. That middle-aged man was a 7th heavenly layer venerable, and his attack was naturally terrifying. The azure wind blade's arc was like a heavenly blade, ruthlessly standing on Prime Minister Hai's body. Bang! A violent trembling sound rang out, spreading in all directions. Light bloomed on Prime Minister Hai's body, forming the strongest armor to protect his body. This energy came from the dragon orb above, mysterious and unfathomable. Although there was only one, it was still terrifying. The aura contained in it wasn't something that venerables could understand. Therefore, this huge wind blade didn't cause any damage to the light. What? Chapter 1091. When the huge wind blade struck Prime Minister Hai's body, it emitted a sonorous rumble. However, to everyone's surprise, the terrifying attack only emitted a deafening sound and did not cause any substantial damage to Prime Minister Hai. What? How is this possible? The middle-aged man with the folding fan was extremely shocked. His face was filled with horror. This was completely beyond his expectations because not long ago, Prime Minister Hai had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood and had fled with serious injuries. However, in just a short moment, his opponent had become so powerful that he could ignore his attack. This was too strange. The cultivators that followed the middle-aged man were also shocked. They were all dumbfounded. However, at this moment, Prime Minister Hai moved. He waved the staff in his hand, forming a huge blue light that surged forward like a wave. In an instant, the middle-aged man was beaten back. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene because the middle-aged man was a 7th heavenly layer Exalt Realm expert. However, he was actually unable to defeat a sea demon. This was simply too shocking. Lin Xian also frowned. He did not stay and quickly left the dragon pillar. He realized that the reason why Prime Minister Hai was so powerful was because he had used the energy within the dragon pearl. He retreated to a safe place and silently observed the situation ahead. In front, the middle-aged man stabilized his body with a shocked expression. However, in the next moment, a powerful aura erupted from his body and he attacked again. Prime Minister Hai sneered and quickly waved his staff. Immediately, the two attacks collided again. The seventh heavenly layer venerable was beaten back again with a pale face. Seeing this scene, everyone was silent. Lin Xian's frown deepened. He realized that Prime Minister Hai's attack did not have any profound technique, but the energy it contained was extremely terrifying. It was completely using energy to crush the sea demon. However, the suppression of power was the most difficult to resist. Unless the other party had a supreme technique like the great dragon sword spirit like him, only then would they be able to fight above their level. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to defeat this sea demon. Dragon King Tsunami. After repelling the middle-aged man with one move, Prime Minister Hai shouted again. This time he raised the staff in his hand high and connected it to the dragon pearl above. A blue energy wave radiated from the staff and spread to the surroundings. In an instant, it enveloped the entire dragon palace. In the next moment, all the martial artists present were horrified. This was because they discovered that the spiritual energy in their bodies was disappearing at a rapid rate. This phenomenon was too terrifying. Because the martial artists had lost their spiritual power, it was difficult for them to display any strength. And now the situation was so dangerous. Without spiritual power they could not fight against the sea demons. Lin Xian also felt the loss of spirit energy in his body. At the same time he quickly used his soul force to carefully investigate. He found that the lost spirit energy was all flowing into the Dragon Ball in front of him. As for the Dragon Ball, it shone even brighter. With a cold snort, Lin Xian operated the great dragon sword soul in his body and quickly cut off this connection. In the next moment, the spiritual energy in his body returned to normal and no longer flowed out. However, the others were not so lucky. They could not escape the deprivation of the Dragon Balls. However, they would not sit still and wait for death. The middle-aged man at the 7th level venerable hurriedly shouted, "Are you guys from the Immortal Martial Academy and the Divine Bird Palace? We are from the Merry Woods. Now that the situation is very dangerous, I think we should join forces." "All right. Sure." Elder Song did not hesitate and immediately agreed. The Divine Bird Palace also quickly responded. There was no other way. In the current situation they could not escape by themselves. Only by joining forces would they have a chance. After getting the response from the Immortal Martial Academy and the Divine Bird Palace, the 7th level Venerable's confidence increased greatly. He led the disciples of the Merry Woods and quickly counterattacked. Elder Song and the elders of the Divine Bird Palace also erupted with energy in their bodies and attacked with all their might. The Immortal Martial Academy, the Divine Bird Palace, and the Merry Woods were all super forces. Their disciples were all geniuses. Coupled with a group of powerful elders and a 7th heavenly layer venerable expert, their combined strength was incomparably terrifying. When everyone attacked, terrifying energy exploded, causing the entire Dragon Palace to shake violently. Even if Prime Minister Hai used the energy in the Dragon Ball, he still felt very strained in the face of such a terrifying counterattack. Not only that, the 7th level venerable expert even joined forces with the older generation and attacked crazily, quickly surrounding and killing Prime Minister Hai. "We must kill him. Otherwise, none of us will be able to survive today." The 7th level venerable roared. His voice shook the sky and spread in all directions. It was related to their lives, so those disciples did not hold back. They attacked crazily and attacked with all their might. Prime Minister Hai's cultivation was only at the 7th level venerable realm. With his own strength, it was impossible for him to contend against such a big scene. It was only by relying on the energy in the Dragon Ball that he could contend against them. However, with his cultivation he could only roughly mobilize the energy. He could not unleash the full power of the energy. This gave everyone a chance. As everyone attacked crazily, Prime Minister Hai became more and more exhausted. He kept retreating and his face became pale. In the end he retreated to the side of the 2 dragon pillars. With his back against the pillars, he resisted with difficulty. Although he was suppressed by everyone with the support of the energy in the Dragon Ball, he would not be defeated for a while. Therefore the situation was in a deadlock. However, the more they fought, the more anxious they became. Because they were different from Prime Minister Hai. Prime Minister Hai had the support of the Dragon Ball and could be said to have unlimited energy. However, they were different. They were deprived by the Dragon Ball and the spiritual energy in their bodies was constantly disappearing. The longer they delayed, the weaker they became. As for the Dragon Ball, it would absorb their spiritual energy and become stronger and stronger. Therefore, this was a hopeless situation for them. Destroy the dragon pillars. We can't be lenient. The 7th level Venerable roared. Immediately, everyone's attacks changed. They attacked the dragon pillar behind Prime Minister Hai. Although they did not know what the dragon pillar was used for, since it was connected to the Dragon Ball, it had to be destroyed. Rumble. Everyone's attacks were powerful, causing the sturdy dragon pillar to shake non-stop. Cracks appeared on the last dragon pillar. Seeing this, Prime Minister Hai's expression changed. Then he shouted, "Black Turtle General, come out." Immediately, a black hole appeared on the other dragon pillar. Then a huge black shadow appeared and quickly grew bigger. Boom. Finally, the black shadow landed on the ground, causing the entire dragon palace to shake again. In front of everyone, a mountain-sized sea demon appeared. Accompanying it was a wave of demonic chi. Chapter 1092. This sea demon's body was as huge as a mountain, and a terrifying demonic aura spread out in all directions. It roared, and like a clap of thunder, it shook the heavens and earth. Everyone looked up in horror and found that it was a black tortoise. It was the one that had escaped after being injured by Zhao Shui. However, at this moment, the injuries on its body had already healed, and it seemed to be even stronger than before. This was really too shocking. It should be known that those injuries could not be healed in a short period of time. However, this sea demon was standing in front of everyone as good as new. Could it be because of the dragon pillar? Lin Xian frowned because he knew that this huge black tortoise came out of the dragon pillar. There must be some kind of relationship between the two. Under the command of Prime Minister Hai, the huge black tortoise clan expert roared and launched a fierce attack on everyone. However, Zhao Shui snorted coldly, and like a stream of light, she quickly rushed up. "Bastard, you're courting death." She raised her lily-white hand and sent out a series of palm shadows, blasting towards the black tortoise clan expert. However, the situation this time was beyond her expectations. The black tortoise clan expert was nourished by the energy of the dragon pearl and became extremely tyrannical. However, Zhao Shui was affected by the dragon pearl, and the spiritual power in her body was drained. Therefore, when the two fought, Zhao Shui was at a disadvantage. With the participation of the black tortoise clan expert, Prime Minister Hai, who was originally at a disadvantage, recovered and launched a fierce attack. "No, our physical strength can't hold on for long. Let's retreat first." Elder Song's face changed greatly because he found that there was not much spiritual power left in his body. If this continued, the unlucky ones would be them. The elders of the Divine Bird Palace also quickly nodded because their situation was also not good. Therefore, under the leadership of the elders, the disciples retreated and temporarily left the Dragon Palace. As soon as they left the Dragon Palace, the experts of the three major sects cast a defensive light curtain, then sat cross-legged on the ground and quickly recovered their spiritual power. There was no other way. They had consumed too much spiritual power and had to recuperate. Lin Xian also sat down cross-legged and quickly circulated the secret art of longevity to recover his spiritual energy. At the same time, he kept thinking about how to break this stalemate. In Dragon Palace, the strong cultivator of the Xian Turtle clan entered the dragon pillar again. Prime Minister Hai's face was gloomy. He quickly used the energy of the dragon pearl to restore one of the dragon pillars. Although the humans were temporarily repelled this time, he didn't dare to be careless at all because just a moment ago, those despicable humans had almost shattered one of the dragon pillars. If the dragon pillar were to shatter, then it would be troublesome. Therefore, he did not dare to be the slightest bit careless and quickly used the energy inside the dragon ball to repair it. Outside the dragon palace, everyone was recovering quickly. Zhao Shui was dressed in white and looked like a fairy. She said coldly, "When we attack again, I will do my best to stall that black tortoise. As for the rest, it's all up to you. You must break that dragon pillar. Don't worry, we'll do our best as well." The 7th level venerated realm expert from Merry Woods said in a deep voice. Elder Song and the other elders quickly nodded. They decided that this time, they must do their best to break the dragon pillar. This time, everyone had suffered heavy losses. Therefore they rested for 3 days. During these 3 days, everyone was recovering here. However, Lin Xian was an exception. Because he had already cut off the power of the Dragon Ball, he didn't consume much spiritual power. Therefore he took the opportunity to take out the 1000 Beast Cauldron and some supreme-grade spiritual herbs and began to refine pills. The dark red divine dragon arranged a layer of array around Lin Xian. Then it lay on the ground and took out some supreme-grade spiritual herbs and began to consume them together. This scene immediately attracted the attention of the crowd. Many people drooled when they saw the supreme-grade spirit herb, especially those from Divine Bird Palace. Their faces were gloomy and they were going crazy. Damn it, these spiritual herbs were originally ours. It's all because of this despicable brat. I can't stand it. He actually refined pills in front of all of us. Despicable. Humph, he definitely won't succeed. Damn, that snake actually swallowed it directly. What a waste. I really want to catch him and eat snake soup. A group of Divine Bird Palace disciples gritted their teeth in anger. However, Lin Xian did not pay any attention to them. He quickly entered a state of mind and began to concoct pills. Gradually, the older generation figures were jolted awake. Even the 7th-level venerated realm expert revealed an expression of shock. This was because they realized that Lin Xian was actually refining a 7th-grade pill. He can refine 7th-level pills at such a young age. He's really amazing. Many people were shocked. Soon he refined a furnace of pills. These pills were refined according to the pill formula left by King Pill Feather. They were all pills that could improve one's cultivation strength. At this moment they were the most suitable for Lin Xian. Putting away the thousand-beast cauldron, Lin Xian picked up a pill and quickly swallowed it. Then he ran the longevity secret art and absorbed it with all his strength. In this way, everyone recovered their strength while Lin Xian cultivated. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, Lin Xian's cultivation had improved a lot and had reached the peak of the 4th-level venerable. It seemed shocking, but in fact it was easy to understand. The spiritual herbs in Lin Xian's hands were extremely precious. They were all extinct spiritual herbs and were very old. They could be said to be rare treasures. Not to mention refining them into pills, just consuming them directly could improve a martial artist's cultivation by a large margin. Moreover, Lin Xian had the pill formula left by the king in the thousand-beast cauldron. Could be said that the effects of the pills he refined were amazing. That was why he could improve his cultivation by a large margin in 3 days. Of course, this kind of situation was very rare. If Lin Xian hadn't picked the supreme-grade spiritual herbs, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish such a feat. After eating a few more furnaces of pills, I think I can reach the 5th-level venerable. Lin Xian thought in his heart. Of course, it would be even better if he could get the Dragon Ball. It could improve the effect quickly, and even break through to the 6th-level venerable was not a dream. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes were burning with a trace of passion. At this time, most of the people had recovered. The 7th-level venerable from Merry Woods stood up and clenched the folding fan in his hand. The light in his eyes was terrifying. Zhao Shui also stood up, a deep light flashing in her beautiful eyes. At the same time, Elder Song and the other older generation figures were also ready. They were full of fighting spirit. This time they must take down the Dragon Palace. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Countless figures set off and charged into the Dragon Palace. Dragon King Tsunami. Prime Minister Hai roared and waved his staff. A terrifying energy enveloped the Dragon Palace. A strange and frightening power enveloped everyone. However, with the experience of the previous battle, everyone had a plan to deal with it. In the next moment they all took action to resist the energy. Muffled sounds like thunder rang out. This was the sound of energy colliding. Endless waves surged and the entire Dragon Palace trembled. Chapter 1093. Everyone worked together and attacked again. The fan in Merry Wood's 7th-level venerate's hand quickly enlarged and fell. It was like a phoenix flapping its wings, creating a strong gale that swept downwards. This attack was very terrifying. It was as if it was not a human but an ancient demonic bird. In the next moment, the entire Dragon Palace was filled with violent heavenly winds. The terrifying heavenly winds enveloped the entire Dragon Palace. Countless people panicked and activated their defenses to resist. Fortunately, this attack was not directed at them, so they only suffered from the aftershocks. There was no danger to their lives. This was not an ordinary attack. This was an Earth-class martial art, Heavenly Wind Rend. A powerful wind-type martial art, coupled with the 7th-level venerate's half-Earth-class artifact, made this attack very powerful. It was enough to devour the heavens and split the earth. Fortunately, the Dragon Palace was very special and powerful. Otherwise, if it were any other city, it would have been torn apart. However, even so, the Crystal Dragon Palace was not spared. Especially when everyone's target was the 2 dragon pillars. One of them was enveloped by the heavenly winds, and cracks appeared on it again. This time the cracks were even bigger than the previous one. It was as if the dragon pillar would crack at any moment. After using this attack, Mary Wood's 7th level Venerate heaved a sigh of relief. Although this attack consumed a lot of his energy, the effect was very obvious. Was this the strength of a 7th level Venerate? How terrifying. This attack was comparable to everyone's combined energy. Many people were shocked because the last time the Dragon Pro cracked, it was caused by everyone working together. This time, the 7th level Venerate created the same effect by himself. Was even better. This result indeed shocked everyone to the core. Good job, Martial Uncle Zhou. Mighty Heavenly Wind Rend. Mary Wood's disciples cheered. They were very happy. However, in the next moment, their eyes widened and they fell into shock again. This was because Zhao Shui also made a move. Above, there was a fluctuation of spiritual energy and a huge eye appeared. It was like the eye of the heavens. Void Sky Eye. At this moment, Zhao Shui was emitting a terrifying aura. She was like a god that could see through everything. Everyone felt his gaze and their hearts began to pound wildly. It was as if all their secrets had been exposed under the sun, and there was nowhere to hide. At the same time, the Void Sky Eye also unleashed an attack. It was as if that gaze could see through the mountains, rivers, and starry sky. Those eyes were too terrifying, as if they were looking down on all life. Suddenly, the Dragon Palace trembled violently, as if it was about to be destroyed under this gaze. Rumble. Under the attack of the Void Heaven Eye, the dragon pillar that had cracks on it completely shattered. Bang. The dragon pillar shattered, collapsing in all directions. What kind of eye technique is this? It's so terrifying. Prime Minister Hai was extremely shocked. He didn't expect a human to have such a terrifying eye technique attack. It was completely out of his imagination. The other half of the crowd was also shocked. Void Sky Eye, the legendary eye technique that disappeared. Mary Wood's 7th layer supreme expert couldn't help but cry out in shock. Because the power of this ocular technique already surpassed his Earth rank martial art, Heavenly Wind Rend. Moreover, it was not just a little bit stronger. Not only that, but what was even more shocking was that this was a long-lost eye technique. In the crowd, Lin Xian was also shocked when he saw this scene. This ocular technique was too powerful, and its attack power shocked him. One had to know that even when he used the Great Dragon Sword Soul with all his strength, it was only SOSO. Of course, this didn't mean that the Great Dragon Sword Soul was weak, but Lin Xian was only a 4th layer Supreme Expert. If Lin Xian was also a 7th layer Supreme Expert, then with the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul, it wouldn't be a problem to split the Dragon Palace apart. You dare to destroy the Dragon Pillar? You're all going to die. Prime Minister Hai went crazy. He waved his staff and quickly mobilized the energy of the Dragon Pillar, trying to restore it. However, the crowd didn't give him a chance and quickly attacked. Black Tortoise General, come out. Prime Minister Hai couldn't hold on by himself and hurriedly called for his companions. Buzz. A huge whirlpool appeared on another dragon pillar and then a huge figure appeared. It was an expert from the Black Tortoise race. As soon as it appeared, it emitted a monstrous demonic aura that swept out in all directions. Its aura was much stronger than before. It seemed that the dragon pillar was indeed very strange. The Black Tortoise race expert had only been in there for a few days, but his strength had increased rapidly. The current him was far stronger than before. Everyone be careful. Don't fight it head-on. Elder Song quickly reminded them from behind. Although his disciples were geniuses, they were too young. With their current strength, they couldn't resist at all. They had to work together to fight it. This time, everyone split up. One team, led by Zhao Shui, fought against the Black Tortoise race expert. The other team, led by Mary Forest's 7th layer supreme expert, Elder Zhou, attacked the other dragon pillar. They attacked from both sides at the same time. Void Sky Eye. Zhao Shui's figure fluttered like an immortal. She instantly arrived above the Black Tortoise race expert. The huge illusory eye surged and released a resplendent attack. This was an ocular technique that contained a terrifying soul power. Bang. In an instant, this attack bombarded the Black Tortoise race expert's body and immediately tore open his hard turtle shell. Although the Black Tortoise race expert's strength had increased greatly, the Void Sky Eye was too terrifying and couldn't be judged by common sense. Therefore, this attack injured the Black Tortoise race expert. Roar. An earth-shattering roar resounded in all directions as the Black Tortoise race expert went berserk. As a sea race expert, he was very powerful. This time, he had been strengthened by the Dragon Pillar, and his strength had increased greatly. He originally thought that this time, he could avenge his humiliation and kill the despicable human in front of him. However, he didn't expect that he would be injured again. How could he not go crazy? He waved his huge claws and pounced forward. Sika. The entire space collapsed as endless waves surged. The space in front of him was instantly emptied. Zhao Shui used her movement technique and quickly dodged this attack. At this moment, the 7th layer supreme expert in the distance also seized the opportunity to use an earthgrade technique. He ruthlessly bombarded the black tortoise race expert and sent him flying. The mountain-like body flew out from the bottom of the sea, destroying countless buildings along the way. Kill? Elder Song led the countless disciples and quickly attacked. They could only use this opportunity to attack the black tortoise race expert. Rumble. In an instant, countless attacks landed and enveloped the black tortoise race expert. Even though the black tortoise race's defense was strong, it couldn't withstand so many attacks and the attacks of 2 7th layer supreme experts. Therefore, it didn't take long for it to become thin and heavily injured. Seeing this scene in the distance, Prime Minister Hai's face was extremely gloomy. He didn't expect that even the extremely tough black tortoise race expert couldn't stop these despicable humans. Damn it, all of you deserve to die. Chapter 1094. At that moment, the situation in the Dragon Palace was very chaotic. The Shen Turtle tribe powerhouses were being beaten back, and Hai Xiang was also getting weaker and weaker. In any case, the situation was very unfavorable for the sea demons. Damn it, all of you must die. Hai Xiang looked at the people around him with a ferocious expression. Dragon King Tsunami. In the next moment, he waved the staff in his hand with all his might and communicated with the Dragon Ball above him. A blue light surged out and swept out in all directions. Everyone who was enveloped by this light felt their bodies tremble as the spiritual power in their bodies quickly disappeared. However, this was not the first time they had seen this move, so they all had a plan to deal with it. In an instant, they all took various measures to resist with all their might. Among them, the Merry Forest's 7th level supremacy, Zhao Shui, and Elder Song were able to quickly control it, while the other disciples resisted with all their might. As for the Shen Turtle tribe powerhouse, because he was a sea demon, he was not affected much. However, there was another person who was not affected at all, and that was Lin Xian. When the other party used the Dragon King Tsunami, he had already mobilized the Great Dragon Sword Soul in his body and quickly cut off all connections around him. In other words, the other party's move did not affect him at all. However, Lin Xian looked ahead and frowned slightly. This was because he knew that the Dragon King Tsunami would not have much of an effect. At most, it would only delay the attacks of the crowd. Given the other party's insight and experience, he should have known. However, the other party still spared no effort to use this move, which was really unbelievable. Up until now, Lin Xian had been among the many disciples fighting against the Shen Turtle tribe powerhouse. Speaking of which, he had not been in the limelight, so many people had forgotten about his existence. This was because there were too many powerhouses present. Regardless of whether it was the 7th level heavenly supremacy or Zhao Shui, they were all extremely powerful and eye-catching existences. As for Lin Xian, he seemed to be just a small disciple who could not do anything in such a grand situation. Of course, this was the situation in the eyes of outsiders. In fact, Lin Xian had used the Thousand Beast Cauldron to control a sea demon and obtain the situation of the Dragon Palace. This Dragon Pearl was actually a demon core left behind by a watch-grade flood dragon. It could be said that it contained the essence of a king. However, the Jiao Dragon King had cultivated an evil technique when he was alive, so his demon core also contained an evil aura. Not only that, Lin Xian also knew that the Flood Dragon King had a treasure when he was alive, the Water Spirit Pearl. He had absorbed quite a bit of the Water Spirit Pearl, and the rest was sealed in a palace with a powerful seal. He had learned all of this from a sea demon. Lin Xian was still digesting the information when a commotion broke out in front of him. That was because after Prime Minister Hai used the Dragon King Tsunami, he did not attack again. Instead, he turned into a ray of light and fled. This was because he could see that with his strength and cultivation, even if he had the Dragon Ball, he could only fight to a draw with everyone for the time being. It was simply impossible for them to win. Moreover, he was afraid that he would be in danger if he dragged this out any longer, so he fled. Because in his opinion, even if he left, Lin Xian and the others would not be able to fight against the Dragon Balls. You want to leave? Not so easy. The 7th Heaven Supremacy from Merry Woods roared and sent out a tornado. Zhao Shui also controlled the Void Sky Eye to lock onto Prime Minister Hai. Bang! Their attacks landed on Prime Minister Hai's body and sent him flying. Blood flowed and the staff in his hand fell out of his hand. When they saw the staff, Zhao Shui and the Seventh Heaven Supremacy were stunned for a moment and did not pay much attention to it. At that moment Lin Xian moved. He waved his sleeve and released the little white monkey. From the information he had obtained, he knew that the staff was very important because it was a treasure that could communicate with the Dragon Ball. Whoosh! With a flash of white light, the little white monkey appeared. It stretched out its furry paws and grabbed the staff, hugging it in its arms. Seeing this scene, Zhao Shui and the Seventh Heaven Supremacy were stunned again because they did not notice when the little monkey had arrived. However, Prime Minister Hai's expression changed drastically. Because this magic staff was his lifeblood. Bastard, you're courting death. He roared angrily and reached out to grab the little white monkey. The little white monkey's eyes were filled with disdain. Then it made a face and disappeared into the air. After grabbing nothing, the little white monkey arrived in front of Prime Minister Hai and slapped his face with its furry paws, knocking him unconscious. Bang! Prime Minister Hai saw stars and felt dizzy. The seventh-level Heavenly Venerate coldly snorted, raised his hand, and sent out a half-moon wind blade that split Prime Minister Hai apart. Zhao Shui frowned slightly. She did not know why, but when she saw the little white monkey she also felt a sense of familiarity. On the other side, the little white monkey did not return to Lin Xian's side after snatching the staff. Instead, it went to the Dragon Ball. It waved the staff in its hand excitedly. Suddenly, the surrounding blue light disappeared and the Dragon King Tsunami's energy stopped. Everyone felt the spiritual power in their bodies recover and heaved a sigh of relief. Then they all looked ahead in shock. It stopped? It actually stopped? That monkey is so familiar? Nonsense, that's Lin Xian's monkey, someone said. What, Lin Xian? Everyone started discussing. At this time the Xian turtle race expert also stopped. Without Prime Minister Hai he did not want to fight anymore. Therefore his figure flickered and he escaped. Everyone did not give chase. Instead they stared at the Dragon Ball in front of them. Of course most of them stared at the little white monkey. Because it was too strange. It could actually stop the Dragon King tsunami. This really shocked everyone. Not only that, but even more people turned around and looked at Lin Xian. Even Elder Song and the others had a strange expression as they looked at Lin Xian. Because this scene was something they did not expect at all. Wooji wooji. The little white monkey hugged the staff and jumped around happily. Its big eyes narrowed into crescents. Damn, the little guy actually snatched the staff. The dark red dragon was overjoyed. Too awesome. He did not want the Dragon Ball, but he had been eyeing the two dragon pillars for a long time. Those were good things. At this time, the people of the Divine Bird Palace coldly shouted, Lin Xian, hurry up and tell your monkey to put down the staff. Yes, hand over the staff. This thing does not belong to you. Humph, in this old man's opinion, you don't deserve to have it. You, a little warrior, dare to occupy such a treasure? You're courting death. Young man, there are some things that you can't take. A group of people from the Divine Bird Palace roared. In the face of so many cold shouts, Lin Xian coldly snorted. Chapter 1095. Kid, hand over the staff if you know what's good for you. Yes, this is not something you can have. The people of Divine Bird Palace stared at Lin Xian with unfriendly expressions. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Suddenly, the little white monkey in front of him waved the staff and communicated with the Dragon Ball above. It formed a blue light that enveloped the people of Divine Bird Palace. In an instant, the disciples of Divine Bird Palace were all enveloped by the light. The next moment, the spiritual energy in their bodies was drained again. Seeing this, the people of Divine Bird Palace trembled and quickly shut up, not daring to speak again. Because they did not expect that the little white monkey not only obtained the staff, but also could control the Dragon Ball. This was too strange. The others were also shocked. This scene was completely beyond their imagination. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled into a smile as he strode forward. The dark red dragon god also howled excitedly and followed beside him. He quickly came to the little white monkey's side and said excitedly, Little one, quickly cast a spell on these two dragon pillars and turn them into a spirit spring. The dark red dragon god was a wily old fox, so he saw the key to the problem at a glance. To be able to receive the Dragon Ball, these two dragon pillars were definitely not simple. Moreover, the powerhouse of the Shen Turtle clan was inside these dragon pillars. In the end, not only did he recover from his injuries, but his strength also increased greatly. Therefore, this meant that these two dragon pillars were definitely not simple. The little white monkey nodded happily. Then he waved the staff in his hand and cast a spell on the 2 dragon pillars. Soon, the 2 dragon pillars melted and turned into a spirit spring. A very rich spiritual energy condensed and emitted from the bottom of the sea. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and then took a step forward and entered the spirit spring. As soon as he entered, he could not help but snort softly. All the pores on his body opened up and greedily absorbed the spiritual energy inside. The dark red divine dragon's guess was right. The spirit spring formed by the 2 dragon pillars contained pure energy. At this moment, Lin Xian chose to absorb it into his body, forming a warm current that washed over his body. The dark red dragon god also howled and swam around in the spirit spring. Such rich spiritual energy. Seeing this, the disciples of Divine Bird Palace finally could not help but exclaim. They rushed forward and dived into the spirit spring. However, what followed was a series of screams. The disciples who jumped into the spirit spring were enveloped by an evil force. They were instantly turned into blood water and evaporated. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, and their expressions became very frightened. They had never expected such an outcome. Evil Chi. It's the evil Chi inside the Dragon Balls. An elder from Merry Woods shook his head. Although the spirit spring is good, it contains a large amount of evil Chi. If one's cultivation is not enough and forcefully absorbs it, I'm afraid one will instantly turn into a pool of blood. Hearing this explanation, everyone's face changed. Looking at the spirit spring in front of them, their eyes were filled with endless envy and disappointment. Although the spirit spring was good, it seemed that they couldn't enjoy it at all. However, the people of the Divine Bird Palace didn't believe it. One by one they shouted, "Impossible." That's right. If there was evil Chi, how could that kid be fine? Conspiracy, this must be his conspiracy. Yes, let's drag that brat out and avenge our disciple. An elder of the Divine Bird Palace also roared angrily. However, the elder of Merry Woods shook his head. This is not a conspiracy. Warriors below the 7th sky of Venerable Realm can't enter at all. That young man can enter because of that staff. What? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. They all stared at the little white monkey, or to be exact, the staff in his hand. Especially the people of the Divine Bird Palace. They all stared ahead with greedy eyes. That staff was too important. Just getting the staff was equivalent to getting the spirit spring. With the spirit spring, their cultivation would be able to increase. Kit, hurry up and hand over the staff. The elder of the Divine Bird Palace sneered and stretched out a palm of light to grab the little white monkey. He was very arrogant. This palm completely covered the entire spirit spring, including Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian didn't move. It was as if he didn't see it. The little white monkey waved the staff in his hand angrily. Suddenly, the dragon ball above shot out a blue light. Like lightning, it instantly tore the palm of light apart and penetrated the elder of the Divine Bird Palace. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Because the power of the dragon ball was too powerful. The elder of the Divine Bird Palace was a 6th sky of Venerable Realm expert, but he was penetrated in an instant. This was too terrifying. The people of the Divine Bird Palace were so scared that their faces turned green. They quickly retreated and didn't dare to go forward. Although they were very envious and greedy, no one dared to risk their lives at this moment. The others were also shocked. Everyone looked at the little white monkey with a look of fear. Zhao Shui was expressionless. She quickly walked up. The 7th sky of Merry Woods pondered for a moment and also walked up. To be honest, the appearance of Lin Xian surprised him. He only regarded Zhao Shui as a strong opponent and didn't care about others at all. However, he didn't expect that a young man with a 4th sky of Venerable Realm cultivation could shock everyone. Young Master Lin, what do you plan to do with the Dragon Ball? Zhao Shui asked. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that the powerful Zhao Shui would ask Lin Xian. The 7th sky of Venerable Realm didn't say anything. He glanced at Zhao Shui and then looked at Lin Xian again. It could be said that the 2 people in front of him were the ones he feared the most. Zhao Shui was powerful and had the virtual sky eyes. She was so powerful that even he didn't dare to be careless. As for the young man in the spirit spring, although he didn't care about his own strength, he now had the magic staff. It could be said that he could indirectly control the Dragon Ball. Unless it was a last resort, he didn't want to be enemies with him. Because he had seen the power of the Dragon Ball. It was an existence that gave people a headache. The surrounding people were even more shocked because Zhao Shui was a 7th sky of Venerable Realm expert. She also had an ancient eye technique that was lost. It could be said that she was very powerful. Even the 7th sky of Merry Woods wouldn't dare to say that he would win. It could be said that no one present could truly defeat Zhao Shui. However, such a powerful person was now asking Lin Xian. This was simply too shocking and unexpected. At this moment, Lin Xian in the spirit spring opened his eyes. He glanced around and then said in a deep voice, "This spirit spring belongs to me. This spirit spring is mine. It will be of great use to my cultivation." Hearing this, everyone was shocked, especially those from the Divine Bird Palace. Their faces were full of surprise. They didn't expect Lin Xian to be so greedy and directly swallow the entire spirit spring. However, even if they were dissatisfied, they didn't dare to say anything. Their elder was killed on the spot. That scene immediately stunned them. Chapter 1096. He dares to demand an exorbitant price in front of two 7th level venerables. This guy is definitely dead. That's right, he wants to take it all for himself? He doesn't even know who he is. Even if we agree, I'm afraid the two 7th level venerables won't agree. The people of Divine Bird Palace sneered, ready to see Lin Xian make a fool of himself. However, in the next moment they were stunned, and their faces became extremely ugly. Because Zhao Shui nodded quickly without thinking. "Okay, I won't fight with you for the spiritual spring." Seeing Zhao Shui nod, the 7th level venerables next to her also nodded. The spiritual spring was good and it was useful to them, but compared to the Dragon Ball it was not worth mentioning. Therefore their goal was the Dragon Ball and they gave up on the spiritual spring. Seeing Zhao Shui and the 7th level venerables of Merry Woods give up on the spiritual spring, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Because they never thought that the two 7th level venerables would give up on the treasure in front of them so decisively. Lin Xian smiled in satisfaction. At the same time he heaved a sigh of relief. He made the right bet. In front of the Dragon Ball, the spiritual spring was nothing. This was not to say that the spiritual spring was not good, but compared to the Dragon Ball, the spiritual spring was not as good. However, the spiritual spring was very important to Lin Xian. Because it could greatly improve Lin Xian's cultivation in a short period of time. Lin Xian smiled, then said, "As for the Dragon Ball above, I won't take it." Hearing Lin Xian's words, Zhao Shui and the 7th level venerables of Merry Woods were obviously relieved. The surrounding people were also stunned. They did not expect Lin Xian to give up on the Dragon Ball so decisively. In fact, Lin Xian had his own considerations. Because the Dark Red Dragon had clearly said that there was still some evil chi in the Dragon Ball, so he would not take it. This evil-killing aura would not only affect the Dark Red Divine Dragon, but Lin Xian felt that it might also affect him. Therefore, for the sake of his future martial arts development, Lin Xian decided to give up. Moreover, these dragons were too demonic and too eye-catching. They were definitely not something the spirit spring beneath his feet could compare to. This was a true king artifact, something left behind by a king artifact. There was no one present who did not want to obtain it. Even a 7th layer venerated realm expert would go crazy after seeing it. With his current strength he was only a 4th layer heavenly venerate. Compared to a 7th layer heavenly venerate, he was indeed much weaker. Even if he could use the staff to snatch the Dragon Ball, it was still extremely dangerous for him because once he left the Dragon Palace, he would be hunted down by countless venerables. He didn't want to put himself in such a dangerous situation. Therefore he didn't want these Dragon Balls. Another point was that Lin Xian found that the energy inside was too high level. With his current cultivation he couldn't absorb it at all. Even if he obtained it, it would be useless to him. It was not as practical as the Spirit Spring. Based on the above 3 points, Lin Xian decisively gave up the Hot Dragon Ball and chose the Spirit Spring. Moreover, Lin Xian also understood that the Dragon Ball was very difficult to obtain. Even if he had the staff, it would not be easy to obtain the Dragon Ball. Therefore he threw this hot potato out. However, he would not give it away for nothing. Hearing Lin Xian's decision, the young disciples were in an uproar. They did not expect Lin Xian to give up such a good opportunity. However, the older generation was silent, especially Elder Song and the others. They looked at Lin Xian and kept nodding. Because if they were to choose, they would also give up the Dragon Ball. He's so young, but he knows how to prioritize and how to give up. This young man is amazing. Yeah, with his talent, if he grows up, his future will be limitless. The few elders of the Immortal Martial Academy nodded. At this moment, Lin Xian spoke again. Of course, I don't want the Dragon Ball, but it doesn't mean that you can obtain it. With your strength, you should be able to see that this Dragon Ball is something left behind by a king. It would be very difficult to completely subdue it. However, I can use the staff in my hand to help you. In this Dragon Palace, there is a water spirit pearl. Whoever can help me find it and hand it to me, I will use the staff to obtain the Dragon Ball. Lin Xian stated his final condition. What? When these words came out, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect Lin Xian to still dare to negotiate. Water Spirit Pearl? What is that? Could it be that there are other treasures in the Dragon Palace? Should be, it doesn't seem to be inferior to the Spirit Spring. Damn it, how did he know about the Water Spirit Pearl? This brat is too greedy. Not only did he obtain the Spirit Spring, he also wants other treasures. Damn it. This is the dissatisfaction of the people of the Divine Bird Palace. Another elder of the Divine Bird Palace sneered, just watch, he's dead meat. He actually dares to negotiate with a 7th level venerable. He really doesn't know how to write the word, death. Everyone was discussing animatedly. They all felt that Lin Xian was too daring and too greedy. At the same time, they were very curious about the Water Spirit Pearl that Lin Xian mentioned. Especially the people of the Divine Bird Palace, their eyes were once again burning with the flames of greed. Damn it, we must find out the whereabouts of the Water Spirit Pearl. Don't be anxious, wait for an opportunity to make a move. I don't believe that this brat won't tell us. A group of people discussed in low voices, all of them having designs on the Water Spirit Pearl. Actually, this was very normal. The most precious treasure in this place was the Dragon Ball. However, with Zhao Shui and the 7th level venerable, they had no chance at all. Next would be Lin Xian's Spirit Spring. However, they didn't dare to seize it because the little white monkey was controlling the staff. Therefore, this mysterious Water Spirit Pearl became everyone's target. Zhao Shui pondered for a moment, then nodded, okay, it's a deal. She seemed determined to get the Dragon Ball. The 7th level venerable of the Merry Woods had a gloomy face, his heart filled with dissatisfaction. Lin Xian monopolizing the Spirit Spring had already made him dissatisfied, but he didn't expect that Lin Xian would dare to negotiate with him. How daring! Because the effect of the Spirit Spring was very rich, even he was a little tempted. Now, it was completely monopolized by Lin Xian. This wasn't enough. The other party even wanted to use the Water Spirit Pearl to exchange for the Dragon Ball. This was too much. The disciples of the Merry Woods also had gloomy faces. They stared at Lin Xian with an unkind expression. At this time, the people of the Divine Bird Palace couldn't bear it anymore. Several of the older generation jumped out and said coldly, "Brat, how dare you negotiate with us? I think you're tired of living." That's right, you still want other treasures? Do you really think that no one can stop you? Who do you think you are? You still want to help us seize the Spirit Pearl. We want to seize the Spirit Pearl and we don't need your help. A group of elders of the Divine Bird Palace looked angry and disdainful. Oh, you don't need my help? That's good, the Dragon Ball is there. If you want to go, go, I won't stop you. Chapter 1097. You won't stop it? Are you telling the truth? Hearing this, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace were excited. Of course, this Dragon Ball is an ownerless item. Whoever wants to take it can do so. I won't interfere. At least you know what's good for you. The elders of the Divine Bird Palace snorted and quickly walked forward, rubbing their fists and preparing to take the Dragon Ball. They couldn't wait any longer. Originally, they were a little afraid of the little white monkey and the staff in his hand because he could control the Dragon Ball. But now he said he wouldn't interfere with them, which made them very happy. I'll do it. An elder of the Divine Bird Palace stood out. This old man's hair was gray and his cultivation had reached the 6th heaven of the Venerable Realm. He looked at the Dragon Ball in front of him and his heart throbbed. Finally he made a move. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace cheered. It's great that the 7th elder is making a move. Yeah, the 7th elder is a Venerable Realm expert. He can definitely take the Dragon Ball. When the 7th elder gets the Dragon Ball, I want to see that kid's expression. I'm afraid he'll cry his eyes out. Such a good treasure disappearing in front of his eyes. Anyone would feel bad. He deserves it. I can't wait to see his expression. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace sneered. The people of the Celestial Martial Academy and Merry Woods were also whispering. Isn't Lin Xian a little too arrogant? The Dragon Ball is an ownerless item. Without control, no matter how strong it is, I'm afraid it can't exert much power. Not necessarily. After all, it's something left behind by a king. Who knows what will happen? Yeah, let's wait and see. Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile when he heard the crowd's discussion. He wanted to see who would be the one crying later. The 7th elder of the Divine Bird Palace stepped out and a powerful spiritual energy erupted from his body. Behind him, the shadow of a three-headed bird appeared. Then the shadow let out a cry that resounded through the 9 heavens. Moreover, the 7th elder stretched out his palm and formed a giant purple claw in the air, grabbing at the Dragon Ball. The giant purple claw was completely formed by lightning. It was extremely terrifying, and cracks even appeared on the empty palace. Soon the giant claw enveloped the Dragon Ball. Seeing this scene, everyone's hearts were in their throats. Most of the people from Divine Bird Palace stared at the little white monkey to prevent it from making a move. The snow-white little monkey mumbled a few times and cast a disdainful look at him. It hugged the magic staff to its chest and remained motionless. Seeing that the little white monkey didn't attack, the people of Divine Bird Palace were obviously relieved. The 7th elder also secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Then he once again released a surge of energy, causing the giant purple claw above to shine even brighter. The next moment he grabbed the Dragon Ball. What? Got him. This scene stunned the surrounding people. They didn't expect the Dragon Balls to be caught so easily. Even Mary Wood's 7th level Venerable and Zhao Shui frowned. The people of the Divine Bird Palace laughed crazily. Aha, I finally got the Dragon Balls. Great. This is something left behind by a king. It will be of great help to us. Yes, the heavens are really helping our Divine Bird technique. We will definitely develop it and maybe become a king clan. The people of Divine Bird Palace were full of expectations and were very arrogant. The 7th elder was also excited. He didn't expect to catch the Dragon Balls so easily. He shook his arm and wanted to take the Dragon Balls back. But the next moment, the joy on his face disappeared and was replaced by a touch of fear. No. The 7th elder let out a scream. His expression was very frightened, as if he had encountered something terrible. What happened? Hearing this scream, everyone was shocked and looked over. They saw that the giant claw formed by lightning in the sky was quickly shrinking and then disappearing. As for the 7th elder's arm, it quickly shriveled and turned into a pile of white bones. Moreover, the corrosion continued and soon white bones appeared on his shoulder. No. The 7th elder retreated in horror, but he still couldn't change the situation. Finally, he gritted his teeth and a touch of determination appeared in his eyes. He quickly cut off his entire arm. His body didn't continue to corrode until his arm fell to the ground. After doing all this, the 7th elder of Divine Bird Palace gasped for breath with a face full of fear. He was so close to becoming a pile of bones. Thinking of this, fear rose in his heart. At the same time, his face became ferocious because without his right arm, his combat strength would be greatly reduced. The disciples of Divine Bird Palace were stunned and their expressions were full of panic. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. How could the 7th elder be injured? Yes, that's a level 6 powerhouse. How could he be injured? No, I don't believe it. This must be a dream. The disciples of Divine Bird Palace went crazy and couldn't believe it. Meanwhile, the surrounding people started to discuss among themselves. It seems that the Dragon Balls are not so easy to get. Even a level 6 Venerable couldn't get it and was almost killed. This Dragon Balls is really terrifying. As expected of something left behind by a king. Is really extraordinary. Although no one is controlling it, its instinctive counterattack is not something a level 6 Venerable can resist. Yes, I guess only a level 7 Venerable would have a chance. The disciples of Mary Woods discussed in a low voice. The disciples of Immortal Martial Academy sneered. They didn't have a good impression of Divine Bird Palace Geo and both sides almost got into a conflict. So when they saw this scene they were naturally happy. Don't talk big if you don't have the strength. What did you say about getting the Dragon Balls as easy as flipping your hand? In the end you got slapped in the face. Not only did you not get slapped in the face, you even lost an arm and almost lost your life. This is really embarrassing. They deserved it. Junior Brother Lin had already warned them but they didn't listen. They even thought that Junior Brother Lin was harboring evil intentions. Now they know it's too late. That's right. Junior Brother Lin obviously wanted to help them get the Dragon Balls but they didn't believe him. If you have the ability, don't let Junior Brother Lin help you for the rest of your life. The disciples of Immortal Martial Academy mocked and ridiculed. Elder Song and the rest also fell silent. After all, Lin Xian was a genius of their academy. So in their hearts, they were still biased towards Lin Xian. Hearing these discussions, the other cultivators also fell silent. They looked at Lin Xian with uncertain expressions. Before this, they thought that Lin Xian was too greedy and wanted to take all the treasures for himself. But now, it seemed that Lin Xian really did have the qualifications because the Dragon Balls were too terrifying. It wasn't something an ordinary person could obtain. Even a level 7 venerable wouldn't have full confidence in obtaining it. Chapter 1098. Now the way everyone looked at Lin Xian had changed. No one felt that he was asking for too much because he was indeed the key to obtaining the Dragon Ball. Zhao Shui was expressionless, because she had already agreed to Lin Xian's conditions. The 7th level venerable from the Merry Woods sucked in a breath of cold air. Previously he was still dissatisfied, thinking that Lin Xian was too much and did not put him in his eyes at all. Unfortunately his view had changed. Lin Xian was too important, and without Lin Xian he would not be able to obtain the Dragon Ball. Fortunately, although he was dissatisfied, he did not directly express it to Lin Xian, or else things would be difficult now. Without any hesitation, the 7th level venerable quickly nodded. Okay, I agree to your conditions. Hearing this, Lin Xian raised a satisfied smile, because he had already guessed this result. The Dragon Ball's terror was beyond everyone's imagination. Those people from the Divine Bird Palace overestimated themselves, wanting to obtain it alone, and almost losing an elder. All of this was within his expectations. The two 7th level venerables agreed to Lin Xian's conditions, and began to lead people to search for the legendary water spirit pearl. Lin Xian sat cross-legged in the spirit spring, and quickly absorbed the energy inside, cleansing and improving his body, and increasing his cultivation. Not only that, he also took out the pills that he had refined before and began to consume them. Now he could see that this remote sky secret realm was definitely a treasure trove, and there were treasures everywhere, but one needed to be strong enough to obtain them. Therefore, as long as there was a chance, Lin Xian would not hesitate to increase his strength. More and more people began to search, and in the end, even the people from the Immortal Martial Academy left. Because this Dragon Palace did not only have the Dragon Ball, there were many other treasures in the other palaces, and these treasures were also very tempting. Seeing that the people from the Immortal Martial Academy and Merry Woods had left, the people from the Divine Bird Palace hid in the dark and quickly discussed. Elder, now that those people have left, should we take action and capture this brat? As long as we control this kid and make him activate the staff to help us seize the Dragon Balls, we might have a good chance. Hearing this, the elders of Divine Bird Palace pondered. Although Lin Xian could now control the Dragon Balls, after all they had more people. If they went all out, they might be able to take down this kid. As for Lin Xian, who was far away in the spirit spring, he sneered. Through his powerful soul force, he already knew what these people were talking about. Indeed, I can only control a portion of the Dragon Orb's power. I can't unleash its full power. However, killing a few 6th Heaven Venerables is still a piece of cake. It sounded like he was talking to himself, but it sounded more like a warning. In the distance, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace trembled when they heard this. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were also shocked, as if they had seen a ghost. They didn't think that even though they were so far away, the other party could still hear their conversation. It was really terrifying. Forget it, this kid is too strange. Let's ignore him for now and look for other treasures. This Dragon Palace was left behind by a king. There are many treasures inside. We must get the other treasures. One of the elders said coldly. Then the other elders nodded in agreement and quickly left with the people of the Divine Bird Palace. Seeing that those people had left, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He raised his hand and set up a formation that covered the entire spirit spring. Then he slowly closed his eyes and fell into cultivation. As he continued to absorb the spiritual power in the spirit spring, his cultivation increased rapidly. Half a day later, his cultivation had reached the peak of the 4th Heaven Venerable Realm. At this moment, the spiritual power in the spirit spring was only half consumed. There was still more than half left. Moreover, he still had a lot of elixirs in his hand. If he went all out, he should be able to break through to the 5th Heaven Venerable Realm. Let's give it a try. Lin Xian made up his mind and began to break through to the 5th Heaven Venerable Realm. Just as Lin Xian was breaking through to the next realm, the 7th Heaven Venerables of the Merry Woods, Zhao Shui, and the others were also quickly searching. However, there were many buildings in the Dragon Palace. Although some were destroyed in the battle, there were still many buildings standing here. Therefore, it was not easy to find a small water spirit pearl. Therefore, other than the 7th Heaven Venerables of the Merry Woods and Zhao Shui who were searching for the water spirit pearl, the other warriors were frantically collecting other treasures. However, although Lin Xian was in seclusion to break through, the little white monkey was not idle. He took out the small bowl of the leader again and began to collect other treasures. Because he was very secretive and there were too many buildings around, no one noticed him at all. The little white monkey did not take action. Once he took action, he took out some precious items. Just one item was comparable to 7 or 8 items in the hands of the other warriors. Therefore Lin Xian did not suffer a loss at all. In fact, he made a big profit. Soon a day had passed. With the spirit spring and elixirs, Lin Xian successfully broke through to the 5th heaven venerable realm. He felt the spiritual power in his body increase. Lin Xian was delighted. I finally broke through. After reaching the 5th heaven venerable realm, he could be considered a small expert. Moreover, not only did his cultivation increase, reaching the 5th heaven venerable realm had also improved his great dragon sword soul. In the past, he could not compete with a 6th heaven venerable realm expert. However, there was no problem now. The improvement of the great dragon sword soul had increased his combat strength by several times. However, this was not the end. He planned to improve the great dragon sword soul. This was because his martial soul was different from others. Others' martial souls were condensed by themselves and then slowly improved through exploration. However, Lin Xian was different. His sword soul was the strongest sword soul in the world. It had existed for a long time. However, it entered his body in the end and became his sword soul. Lin Xian did not need to improve the sword soul at all. All he needed to do was activate and revive the great dragon sword soul. This process was much easier than perfecting the martial soul. Chapter 1099. The warriors nearby were shocked because the sound made the blood in their bodies churn. Some of the weaker disciples even fell to the ground from the shock. What's going on? What a terrifying aura. What did that kid do? Why is he emitting such a terrifying aura? Many people looked ahead in horror. Lin Xian stood up from the spiritual spring. At this moment, his figure was tall and straight, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He was like a peerless divine sword that was unstoppable. Around him, there were terrifying sword chi surrounding him, making him look like a celestial being. Is this the power of the great dragon sword soul? It's so terrifying. Lin Xian felt the surging aura of the great dragon sword soul in his body and felt a burst of excitement. Now he could kill a level 4 supremacy with a casual attack. Not only that, he was now completely capable of fighting against a level 6 supremacy. If he used the great dragon sword soul and went all out, he could even fight against a level 7 supremacy. Moreover, what made him happy was that the improvement of the great dragon sword soul was not only reflected in its combat strength. His soul had also been nourished. Now, his soul had broken through the shackles of a level 6 alchemist and reached the level of a level 7 alchemist. Therefore, Lin Xian had now become a true level 7 alchemist. One had to know that he was not even 20 years old. Becoming a level 7 alchemist at this age was unprecedented. This was because a peerless genius like Xin Tianyu had only become a level 7 alchemist when he was around 30 years old. However, Lin Xian had shortened the process by a full 10 years. If this news were to spread, it would probably scare everyone to death. The power of the great dragon sword soul was beyond everyone's expectations. When the crowd faced Lin Xian, they felt as if they were facing a level 7 supremacy. This feeling was so strange that it shocked the surrounding warriors. In fact, this was very normal. The great dragon sword soul was an offensive sword soul between heaven and earth. Its power was definitely not something these people could imagine. Moreover, as Lin Xian's cultivation increased, the recovery of the great dragon sword soul also increased rapidly. Its power increased exponentially with each recovery. Therefore, the further he progressed, the stronger Lin Xian's combat strength became. Lin Xian took a deep breath and retracted all the sword chi in his body. Then he stepped out of the spirit spring. At this moment, most of the energy in the spirit spring had been given to the great dragon sword soul, and there was only a little left. However, the dark red divine dragon did not let it go and directly sucked it all in. After doing all this, he patted his belly in satisfaction. Lin Xian walked slowly as he scanned his surroundings. All the cultivators who were swept by this gaze lowered their heads, not daring to meet it. The little snow-white monkey jumped onto Lin Xian's shoulder and chirped happily. Seeing this, Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat and he looked at the small bowl on its head. Then his lips curled into a smile. The small bowl on the snow-white monkey's head was said to have a certain connection with the legendary treasure bowl. Not only could this small bowl absorb treasures, but it was also a spatial storage Dharma treasure. All the treasures that the little snow-white monkey had obtained were now inside. The little snow-white monkey took the small bowl and hugged it in its arms. Then its furry paws reached into it and groped around. Under Lin Xian's surprised gaze, the little snow-white monkey took out a tattered talisman paper. This talisman paper was only the size of a palm and was dark green all over. At first glance, it looked shabby, but upon closer inspection, one would realize that there were strange patterns engraved on it. They looked like Dao patterns and were extremely mysterious. Oh no. The little snow-white monkey took the tattered dark green talisman paper and handed it to Lin Xian. When the surrounding people saw this, the corners of their mouths twitched slightly. Even a First Heaven supremacy would not want such a tattered thing. This little snow-white monkey is really stingy. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat because he knew that the little snow-white fox would not give him something for no reason. Moreover, something that could be snatched by the little bull was definitely not an ordinary item. Therefore he quickly took the dark green talisman paper and looked at it carefully. In the next moment his body trembled and he was ecstatic. Soul-nurturing talisman. He did not expect that this tattered and ugly thing to be the famous soul-nurturing talisman from ancient times. This soul-nurturing talisman was very special. It was said that when a martial artist wore it, it could increase his soul power. Could be said that it had endless uses. This thing was perfect for Lin Xian. This was because the increase in soul power was not only beneficial for alchemy, but also for the Great Dragon Sword Soul. One had to know that the increase in Great Dragon Sword Soul could increase Lin Xian's soul power, and the increase in soul power could also increase the recovery of the Great Dragon Sword Soul. It could be said that the two complemented each other. After carefully wearing the soul-nurturing talisman on his body, Lin Xian rubbed the little snow-white monkey's head. Well done. Next time I'll give you more than half of the spirit fruits I get. Oh no. The little snow-white monkey nodded in satisfaction. Its black gem-like eyes narrowed into crescents. Moreover, the dark red dragon walked over and said in a low voice, "Boy, I have to say that your luck is really good. Even in ancient times, this soul-nurturing talisman was an extremely precious item." The dark red dragon was right about this. Lin Xian found that the further a martial artist went, the more they cultivated. The original body changed to the soul. It could be said that the further a martial artist went on, the more important soul power was. In the end, no matter what the physical body was like, as long as the soul was not destroyed, they could be reborn. They could even be immortal. From this, it could be seen how important a martial artist's soul was. However, there was no particularly good method to cultivate soul power. Other than a few geniuses who were born with powerful soul power, it was very difficult for others to obtain a method to cultivate soul power. They could only slowly increase their soul power as their cultivation increased. Even in ancient times, soul power cultivation methods were extremely rare and only in the hands of a few sections. For example, the ancient soul sect had a kind of soul power cultivation method. The tattered talisman in Lin Xian's hand was probably made by the ancient soul sect. Lin Xian's soul power was originally very strong. Now that he had the soul-nurturing talisman, his soul power would definitely grow rapidly. Damn, you're not giving him anything. What about me? The dark red dragon also started playing with the little snow-white monkey's things. Woogie woogie, the little snow-white monkey rolled its eyes at him and then put the little bowl on its head. Damn, little guy, don't be so stingy, okay? You have to be magnanimous. The dark red dragon grinned mischievously as it wrapped itself around the monkey. At this moment, a hurried sound of something breaking through the air came from afar. Following that, a ray of light like white lightning came from afar and arrived in front of Lin Xian. Her white clothes were whiter than snow, and her beauty was peerless. This person was Zhao Shui. Chapter 1100. In Lin Xian's memory, Zhao Shui always gave off a charming feeling. She was never as cold as she was now. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. He could not solve this problem now. He could only wait until he had the ability to defeat her before he could unravel her secret. For now, it was better for him to keep these things in his heart. At this moment, Zhao Shui did not know what Lin Xian was thinking. She stopped and hurriedly said to Lin Xian, "Young Master Lin, I found the water spiritual pearl that you wanted." Found it? Hearing this, Lin Xian raised his eyebrows and a joyful expression appeared on his face. According to the information he received, this water spiritual pearl was not inferior to the Lin Quan from before. Therefore it was also a rare treasure for him. Zhao Shui nodded slightly. Then, she flipped her palm and a blue pearl about the size of a fist appeared in her hand. Lin Xian took a deep breath and took the blue pearl. Then he examined it carefully. That's right. It's really the water spiritual pearl. He felt a surge of energy in it. This energy was very pure, unlike the energy in the Dragon Ball, which had a trace of evil chi. The water spiritual pearl laid in Lin Xian's hand and emitted a gentle light. Every time it flashed, a terrifying energy wave would spread out in all directions. When the surrounding ancient martial art practitioners felt the energy wave, they were all shocked and looked forward with burning eyes. However, they could only look on enviously. No one dared to make a move. Not to mention Zhao Shui, who was a terrifying 7th level honorable. Just the aura that Lin Xian exuded earlier was not something they could resist. Therefore they could only look on helplessly. They were going crazy. On the other hand, Lin Xian was overjoyed. He did not expect Zhao Shui to find the water spiritual pearl so quickly. However, thinking about it, it made sense. Zhao Shui was the same as him, a cultivator with extremely powerful soul power. Furthermore, she had the eyes of void, a long-lost eye technique. Presumably, she had a special method to quickly find the water spirit pearl. What made Lin Xian even happier was that the water spirit pearl contained pure water element. Although he didn't have the water attribute, he had the ice attribute. The ice attribute was also a mutation of the water attribute. Could be said that the two were of the same origin. Therefore, not only could the water spirit pearl increase his cultivation, it could even increase the power of the ice lotus martial soul. After putting away the water spirit pearl, Lin Xian looked at Zhao Shui and said in a deep voice, "Since you've found the water spirit pearl, then according to our agreement, I'll do my best to help you seize the Dragon Ball above." Hearing Lin Xian's words, a smile finally appeared on Zhao Shui's expressionless face. Seeing this smile, Lin Xian had a very familiar feeling. However, this smile was very short and disappeared in an instant. The two of them turned around and walked forward. At this moment, the 2 dragon pillars had already disappeared. However, the Dragon Ball was still floating in midair. The Dragon Ball was slightly bigger than the water spirit pearl in Lin Xian's hand. Furthermore, the energy it contained was even more terrifying. The remnant energy that was emitted turned into dragons that swam around the surface of the Dragon Ball, adding a bit of mystery to it. Lin Xian was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he said in a deep voice, "There are a few things that I want to make clear to you before making a move." Hearing this, Zhao Shui nodded slightly and said, "Go ahead." First of all, although Little White can control the staff, it doesn't mean that it can control the Dragon Ball 100%. I hope you understand this point. Don't worry, I know, Zhao Shui said. She knew very well that the Dragon Ball was something left behind by a king. It was impossible to completely subdue it with a staff. Very good. The second point is that although the Dragon Ball has powerful energy, it also contains some evil aura. This aura can even affect a person's mind. I hope you can consider this point carefully, Lin Xian said in a deep voice. This was also the reason why he and the dark red divine dragon gave up on the Dragon Ball. At this moment, Lin Xian told Zhao Shui the truth. Because regardless of whether Zhao Shui had lost her memory or not, Lin Xian was still his friend. Therefore, Lin Xian could not hide anything from her. Hearing this, the surrounding people were shocked. They knew that there was a strange energy in the Dragon Ball, but they did not expect it to be such a terrifying evil aura. This aura was extremely terrifying. Ordinary supremacies would not dare to touch it at all. Perhaps even a 7th level supremacies would have to be careful. Just as everyone was still in shock, another figure arrived in the vicinity like a bolt of lightning. This figure looked at the scene in front of him with a gloomy face. Damn it, I didn't expect her to get the water spirit pearl first. This figure was the 7th level supremacies from Merry Woods. He looked around but did not find the water spirit pearl. Only now did he know that the water spirit pearl had already been obtained by Zhao Shui. He also heard Lin Xian's advice very clearly. However, he did not take it to heart. As long as he could obtain the Dragon Ball, he was confident that he could neutralize the evil aura inside. Therefore, the most important thing was to obtain the Dragon Ball. This Dragon Ball is something left behind by a king. Moreover, it contains evil aura. It must be very terrifying. When I get the treasure later, it will definitely not be peaceful. I only need to hide in the dark and observe. At the crucial moment, I may make a move. There is still hope. This 7th level supremacies had already made up his mind. Even if he had to offend both Zhao Shui and Lin Xian at the same time, he still had to obtain the Dragon Ball. Hearing Lin Xian's words, Zhao Shui also fell into deep thought. However, she quickly raised her head. Her beautiful face was filled with determination. I understand what you said. However, no matter what, I must obtain this Dragon Ball. Alright, since you insist, I will do my best to help you. Then Lin Xian rubbed the snow-white little monkey's head. Little White, let's begin. The snow-white little monkey nodded. Then it jumped off Lin Xian's shoulder and began to wave the staff in its hand. Suddenly the dragon ball above trembled slightly. Then it emitted an even brighter light. It felt as if a blue sun was shining in all directions. At the same time, the dark red divine dragon also moved. It raised its dragon claws and quickly carved a formation in the air. It enveloped the dragon ball and Lin Xian and the others. Of course, this was to isolate the dragon ball from the outside world. Otherwise, if the dragon ball went crazy and attracted some powerful sea monsters, it would be difficult for them. After doing all this, Lin Xian said with a serious expression, "It's your turn." Zhao Shui nodded. Then, the spiritual energy in her body surged and quickly formed a virtual sky eye above her. It was like the eyes of a god looking down on the common people. The surrounding warriors who were exploring all returned and looked at the scene in front of them with serious expressions. This was because they knew that the most crucial moment had come. Chapter 11:01. Elder Song and the others also had heavy hearts because they didn't expect Lin Xian to participate in such an important matter. After the Dragon Pearl was isolated, the rest was dangerous because what they needed to do was to collect the Dragon Pearl. This process would definitely use external forces, but if there was any external interference, the Dragon Pearl would automatically defend against it. Although it wasn't a King Realm cultivator resisting it, it wasn't something an ordinary honorable could resist. Therefore they had to be careful. This required the snow-white little monkey because it could communicate with the Dragon Pearl through its staff and deceive it. Of course, it could only deceive a part of it and couldn't completely cover it. At this moment, Zhao Shui also took a deep breath and controlled the Void Sky Eye to attack the Dragon Pearl. Suddenly, the Void Sky Eye began to rotate and a whirlpool appeared in the huge eye. It quickly became bigger and shrouded the Dragon Pearl. The whirlpool rotated like a black hole and had an extremely strong devouring power as if it wanted to devour the Dragon Pearl. Feeling the pull of this power, the Dragon Pearl quickly trembled and then exploded with a powerful light. A terrifying power surged out of the Dragon Pearl and quickly rushed upwards. This power overflowed and the entire Dragon Palace shook as if it would collapse at any moment. At this moment, the snow-white little monkey quickly waved the staff in its hand and communicated with the Dragon Pearl above to deceive it. However, the effect was minimal and could only weaken the Dragon Pearl's power by a little. Great Dragon Sword Soul. At this moment of crisis, Lin Xian's body suddenly emitted a sharp sword chi. This sword chi quickly rushed upwards to resist the Dragon Pearl. Everyone's hearts shook when they sensed the sword chi. Even the 7th level venerated realm expert from Merry Woods frowned. He didn't expect the young man in front of him to have such a powerful sword aura. The surrounding cultivators were even more shocked because this sword chi made them feel incomparable fear. With Lin Xian's help, the battle situation above changed once again. An extremely sharp sword aura quickly enveloped the entire Dragon Ball. It was as if it wanted to cut it apart. If it was just an ordinary sword chi, it wouldn't be able to get close to the Dragon Pearl, or it would shatter the moment it got close. However, Lin Xian's sword aura was different. It was not an ordinary sword aura. It was a sword aura that came from the Great Dragon Sword Soul, a cultivation method and saint art of the world. Its attack power could be said to be incomparably powerful. Even if the Dragon Pearl was something left behind by a king, it couldn't instantly shatter this sword chi. However, Lin Xian's actions also angered the Dragon Pearl. The blue Dragon Pearl above released a burst of majestic power and rushed towards Lin Xian as if it wanted to tear him apart. Umph. Lin Xian scoffed and a layer of red lotus armor quickly covered his body to protect him. The red lotus armor was an extremely powerful defensive technique. Lin Xian was very confident in it. A low sound was heard. Then 2 figures were sent flying. After all, the Dragon Pearl was a treasure left behind by a king. Its power was terrifying and definitely far beyond everyone's imagination. Therefore, after the attack, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were sent flying. However, the 2 of them were only sent flying and didn't suffer any injuries. However, this scene made the surrounding people widen their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. They could understand why Zhao Shui wasn't injured. After all, she was a 7-day venerable realm expert. It shouldn't be a problem for her to resist the power of the Dragon Pearl. However, Lin Xian was different. Although he had just broken through to the 5th heaven of the venerable realm, it was impossible for him to resist the power of the Dragon Pearl. However, in the end he successfully resisted it and wasn't injured. Damn it, how is this possible? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? This kid isn't injured at all. Humph, dogshit luck, it must be dogshit luck. That's why this kid escaped by a fluke. Just wait and see. Next time he will definitely be blasted into pieces by this energy. The disciples of the divine southern palace snorted. Lin Xian's strength was beyond their imagination. First he released a terrifying sword chi. Now he had such a strong defense. Both of them were extremely shocking. On the other hand, the people of the Immortal Martial Academy heaved a sigh of relief. Everyone was excited. That's great. As expected of junior brother Lin. He's really strong. He can even block the terrifying energy of the Dragon Pearl. Yeah, junior brother Lin seems to be able to create miracles every time. Because these people had the most contact with Lin Xian, they had heard too many legends about Lin Xian. Therefore, they didn't have any doubts about Lin Xian not being injured. In fact, they were very excited. Elder Song and the rest also heaved a sigh of relief. They were originally worried, but now it seemed that their worries were unnecessary. Mary Wood's 7th level venerated realm looked ahead with a solemn expression. He could also block that attack. However, he was a 7th heaven venerable while the opponent was only a 5th heaven venerable. There was a difference of 2 realms between them. The difference was like heaven and earth. This kid is very strange. No matter if it's his attack or defense, they both far surpass those of the same realm. It seems that we have underestimated him. Just as everyone was discussing, Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. The energy was weaker than he expected. It seemed that the staff in the Snow-White Monkey's hand had some effect. Moreover, although they were forced back, it wasn't like they didn't have any effect. At least, a small area above the Dragon Pearl was covered by the sword chi. As expected, the awakened Dragon Sword soul had become extremely powerful. Even the Dragon Pearl left behind by a king couldn't be completely destroyed in an instant. This was definitely a great opportunity. Seeing this scene, Zhao Shui's face lit up with joy. In the next moment, he quickly formed hand seals and controlled the void sky eye above him to attack the Dragon Pearl that was covered by the sword chi. A golden light appeared in Zhao Shui's beautiful eyes, carrying a frightening aura. Not only that, but as her eyes changed, the void sky eye above her also changed. Golden lines quickly appeared in the huge pupil, condensing into a mysterious pattern that covered the eyeball. This change made the void sky eye even more powerful. The originally grayish-black vortex turned pale gold at this moment, and an even more powerful devouring power was formed. Lin Xian activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul once again, sending out streaks of sharp sword chi that slashed forward. The Snow-White Monkey also quickly waved the staff in its hand, and in the end, it simply threw the staff into the golden vortex. The main force of this battle was Zhao Shui. As long as she devoured the Dragon Pearl, everything would be done. Lin Xian and the Snow-White Monkey only assisted from the side. The Dragon Pearl was an ownerless object, so it could only rely on its instincts to defend. Previously, Zhao Shui gave it the greatest threat, so it resisted the most. Chapter 1102. Because the little white monkey threw the staff into the golden vortex. The staff had a certain connection with the Dragon Ball and could weaken the Dragon Ball's resistance. Now that it was thrown into the golden vortex, it directly weakened the Dragon Ball's resistance to the golden vortex. This was definitely the most important step. Zhao Shui also seemed to feel this change and was immediately overjoyed. In the next moment, she shouted and the light in her eyes became brighter. The golden vortex above also quickly turned from a faint gold to a pure gold. Finally, it was like a giant beast that swallowed the sky and swallowed the Dragon Ball in an instant. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people were also in an uproar. They didn't expect Zhao Shui to succeed. The Dragon Ball was like a blue sun, blooming with incomparable light and instantly crashed into the golden vortex. Although the blue Dragon Ball entered the golden vortex, the power it carried was too terrifying. When the two collided, a powerful energy fluctuation burst out and quickly swept in all directions. This energy was extremely terrifying and instantly tore the array set up by the dark red divine dragon and quickly rushed in all directions. The surrounding people's faces changed drastically and quickly retreated. Some of the slower cultivators were even directly sent flying. Zhao Shui was also impacted by this energy and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. However, she didn't care and her eyes were filled with surprise. Success. She finally succeeded in subduing the Dragon Ball. Although it was impacted, the Dragon Ball gradually sank into the golden vortex. At this moment, an extremely anxious voice came from afar. Quickly stop, you can't take the Dragon Ball away. The Dragon Ball is the hope of Heidi City. You will push Heidi City into the abyss by doing this. Hearing this voice, everyone was stunned because they realized that this voice didn't seem to be from a human at all. Zhao Shui and Lin Xian were also stunned. They didn't expect someone to stop them at the last moment. Finally, the two of them turned their heads and saw a figure walking over from the Dragon Palace. It was an old man with white hair and a walking stick. What was more strange was that he was carrying a turtle shell on his back that was covered with moss. Xian Turtle Clan. It was another member of the Xian Turtle Clan. Many people were puzzled because this old man was too old. His hair, eyebrows, and beard almost reached the ground. Needless to say, this was definitely a black tortoise that had lived for countless years. Lin Xian looked at the old black tortoise and frowned. Although the other party was old and his blood seemed to have dried up, with his sharp soul power, he could feel that the old man's realm was extremely terrifying. She seemed to be even better than Zhao Shui. I never expected the Xian Turtle Clan to have an 8th Heaven Exalt Realm expert as well. What? 8th Heaven Venerable? Hearing those words, everyone's hearts trembled. They looked at the aged black tortoise and revealed expressions of disbelief. They had never imagined that the black tortoise that could barely walk was actually an 8th Heavenly Layer Exalted Realm expert. This was a figure who was more powerful than everyone present. If he were to attack, it was likely that no one would be able to stop him. However, the old tortoise shook his head slightly. I can't. I'm old. Although my cultivation is still there, I can't use much of my battle strength. The old tortoise's voice was old. He looked at the young man in front of him and his eyes flickered. Because he didn't expect the young man in front of him to be able to see through his cultivation with a single glance. Zhao Shui regained her coldness. She glanced at the old tortoise and said coldly, I respect you as a senior and won't attack you. However, I won't return the Dragon Ball. It wasn't easy for her to obtain the Dragon Ball. How could she return it? One had to know that this was a treasure left behind by a king. On the side, the 7th Heaven Exalt of Mary Woods also said, You know that you don't have any battle strength left, yet you still dare to stop us. Could it be that there's a secret behind this? One had to know that the Dragon Ball had been taken away by Zhao Shui. There was no hope for him to make a move again. However, he still hadn't given up on the Dragon Ball. Therefore, now that the old tortoise had come out, it might be a chance for him. The old tortoise trembled slightly as he came in front of everyone. His old voice sounded again. I've already lived for thousands of years and my life is about to come to an end. In my last years, I really don't want to see the underwater city fall into endless danger. Thousands of years. Hearing this, everyone was shocked again. They didn't expect this old man to have lived for so long. He was even longer than an ordinary king. On the one hand, warriors cultivated to obtain great power. On the other hand, they wanted to obtain a longer lifespan. Because only by living could they enjoy everything. Generally, a venerable only had a lifespan of 500 to 800 years. Once they became a king, they could live for as long as 1,000 years. However, a king could only live for 2,000 years at most. It was impossible for them to live any longer because this was the rule of heaven and earth. No one could change this unless they broke through to the next realm. However, the Xian Turtle Clan seemed to be somewhat special. Because the Xian Turtle Clan was a monster clan, their lifespan was originally longer than that of humans. Naturally, the powerhouses of the clan could live longer. Therefore, it was possible for the powerhouses of the Xian Turtle Clan to live for thousands of years. However, even if they lived for thousands of years, they couldn't escape the fate of death. Life and death reincarnation. It seemed that no one could escape this law. At least in Lin Xian's current knowledge, no warrior of any realm could escape. He didn't know if the realms beyond his knowledge could escape. The old Xian Turtle's words seemed to resonate with everyone, especially those of the older generation. Their eyes flickered and they remained silent. They had lived for hundreds of years and were close to the end of their lives. That was why they had entered the remote heavenly secret realm with the young people this time. They wanted to take a gamble and find treasures in the secret realm to break through their cultivation. Only then could they extend their lifespan. At this moment, seeing the old Xian Turtle who was about to die, they naturally resonated with him. Everyone, you might not know this, but this Dragon Ball can be said to be the guardian of the underwater city. There are countless sea clan near the Dragon Ball. Every year they will contribute their power to the Dragon Ball, and the Dragon Ball is responsible for protecting the peace of the entire underwater city. This has been going on for thousands of years. I remember clearly that before the Dragon Ball appeared, this underwater city would often create tremors, tsunamis and countless undercurrents, which posed a great threat to the Sea Clan. Since the appearance of the Dragon Ball, these disasters have disappeared. Therefore, for the safety of the underwater city, "You can't take the dragons away." Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the Dragon Ball to have such a function. Could it be that this Dragon Ball can affect the laws of this world? The dark red divine dragon exclaimed. Speaking of which, his cultivation was the highest, so his knowledge was naturally far beyond these people. At this moment, he frowned when he heard the old Shen turtle's words. Chapter 1103. One had to know that mountain torrents, tsunamis, and undercurrents were all natural phenomena. No matter how powerful a treasure was, it could only affect a part of it. It couldn't completely control it. Moreover, there hadn't been any tsunamis in the 1,000 years since the Dragon Ball appeared. This meant that it had already controlled this part of the world. It was too strange. The cultivators around them were too weak, so they couldn't understand the dragon's words. However, Zhao Shui and the 7th level Venerable frowned. The old black turtle was also surprised. He didn't expect that there would be someone who knew so much. He sighed and continued, "Indeed, nothing can control the world. However, what if these disasters weren't caused by the world?" What? They weren't caused by the world? Could it be caused by humans? Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Powerful cultivators could split mountains and rivers and cause disasters. This wasn't a problem. However, it was only for an instant. They had never heard of anyone who could create disasters for hundreds or thousands of years. This was simply impossible. Even a king couldn't do it. Now, the old black turtle was telling everyone that the disasters in the past were caused by humans. This was simply too inconceivable. "Are you sure?" Lin Xian was also shocked. He couldn't think of what kind of expert could do this. The dragon frowned and said with an unnatural expression, "It's muttering to itself. Could it be him?" Lin Xian quickly asked after hearing that. The dragon didn't say anything. Instead, it looked at Lin Xian meaningfully. Seeing the dragon's expression, Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He quickly thought of a name. This was the name of the target he was looking for. It was also the name of this secret realm. The Heavenly Netherbird. Perhaps only those ancient ferocious beasts could cause such a disaster. "Who are you talking about?" The surrounding cultivators asked anxiously. They really wanted to know what kind of existence could do this. However, before Lin Xian could say anything, an exciting aura suddenly surged out from below the underwater city. Feeling this aura, everyone's hair stood on end as fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. Even Mary Wood's 7th layer venerables and Zhao Shui were frowning as if they were facing a great enemy, let alone the ordinary disciples. The old black turtle's expression also changed drastically, and his aged voice trembled slightly. "It's him. It's him. It's alive again." Lin Xian's expression was also grave because that aura was too terrifying. It was as if there was a ball of flames that wanted to roast his body. This was too inconceivable. One had to know that this was the bottom of the sea. How could there be a fire? Even if there was, it wouldn't be able to burn. However, the aura was extremely scorching, bringing with it a terrifying heat that even melted the seawater. However, the aura left as quickly as it came, disappearing without a trace in an instant. Many disciples gasped for breath with ghastly pale countenances, and their entire bodies were drenched in sweat. What was down there? The elders of the Divine Bird Palace kept gasping for breath, and their expressions were full of horror. At that moment, they were like ants encountering a golden dragon, producing a kind of fear that couldn't be controlled. That kind of fear came from the depths of their bodies, from their bloodline, and they couldn't control it at all. This was too shocking. One had to know that their ancestors were the three-headed divine bird, an extremely powerful existence. Although these people didn't have the pure bloodline of their ancestors, they were descendants after all, and their bodies contained a trace of the divine bird's bloodline. But even so, they couldn't resist that aura at all, and they were terrified. The other disciples were also scared. Wasn't this underwater city already under the sea? How could there be something down there? Who knew what kind of monster was down there? A group of warriors felt their scalps tingle and they looked frightened. They didn't dare to stay any longer. The old tortoise sighed and then said faintly, "You should have heard of the heaven-list demonic beasts." Heaven-list demonic beasts? Hearing this, everyone was shocked and stopped running away with a suspicious look on their faces. Isn't that a legendary demonic beast? Does it really exist? It's actually a heaven-list demonic beast. This is really incredible. Everyone was talking about it and they were shocked. In this world, in addition to humans, there were also demonic beasts, all kinds of demonic beasts. In ancient times, There were experts who categorized these demonic beasts into the heaven list and earth list. Any demonic beast that could be on the heaven list was an extremely powerful existence in the world. Among them, the demonic beasts on the heaven list were even more terrifying. Each of them was a peerless, fierce beast with unimaginable power. However, as time passed, the powerful sects of ancient times declined, and those heaven list demonic beasts gradually disappeared. Now, only some earth list demonic beasts still existed. The heaven list demonic beasts seemed to have become legends. Therefore, these disciples were so shocked when they heard about the heaven list demonic beasts. Seeing that everyone knew about the legend of the heaven list demonic beasts, the old black turtle continued. Among the heaven list demonic beasts, there is a demonic beast that is ranked 7th, called the Great Xia Dragonfinch. What? The Great Xia Dragonfinch? How is that possible? Hearing this, everyone screamed. The older generation figures were also shocked. Even Zhao Shui and Mary Forrest's 7th Venerable were in disbelief. The Great Xia Dragonfinch was a terrifying existence that was ranked 7th on the heaven list demonic beast. It was definitely a peerless, fierce beast. With their cultivation, they couldn't even resist a trace of the other party's aura. Everyone was terrified and many people even wanted to escape. If it was really the Great Xia Dragonfinch, then they wouldn't have any chance to resist. Not to mention them, the entire Jianghu continent would probably cease to exist. One had to know that these people were all disciples of the top sects in the continent, so they knew a lot of things. For example, they knew about the legend of the Great Xia Dragonfinch. It was the guardian beast of the Great Xia Kingdom. The Great Xia Kingdom was not the Great Xia Kingdom in Lin Xian's hometown, but a true ancient divine kingdom. Legend had it that outside the Jianghu continent, there was an even wider world, and the Great Xia Kingdom was one of them. It was said that the Great Xia Kingdom's territory was very vast, even larger than the entire Jianghu continent. One could imagine how powerful this kingdom was. Perhaps even the top king of the Jianghu continent wouldn't be able to cause any waves in the Great Xia Kingdom. And this dragonfinch was the strongest divine beast in the Great Xia Kingdom, protecting the safety of the entire Great Xia Kingdom. It was definitely an extremely terrifying existence, an existence that everyone could only look up to. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.